What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly of Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from, you'll find us there. Check us out, Insert Name FC. Also, you can find us in video form. So full video episodes of this podcast is available on the Belly Up YouTube channel. So if you guys want to see the full video version of this episode, that's where you can find us. So go ahead and check out Belly Up's YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Make sure you guys like the video as well. Thank you. That'd be very much appreciated. Short videos from these episodes are also available on our YouTube channel at Insert Name FC. And the video episode and the clips are also available on Goals TV. So goz.tv, you can check us out there as well. Follow us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at InsertNameFC, on TikTok at insert.name.fc. Though I gotta figure some things out with my scheduling because I need to get back into the groove of making clips, but I just haven't had the time. But we'll figure it out, man. We'll figure things out. But so that's what if you guys are wondering, how come I haven't made any clips recently, and it's not because I got scared off or anything like that. That's not even remotely close to it. But yeah. So this episode, Edward makes his return to the podcast. If you guys remember, well, if you guys are new to the podcast, this is actually a two-person show. It's myself and my best friend Edward Robles. We're childhood friends. I've known him since I was 4 years old. And it's funny because a lot of people tell us that it's not very common to see someone that's been friends with someone for that long. So yeah, we've been friends for, well, now 29 years of friendship. Yeah, he's my best friend, man. We grew up. I don't even call him a friend anymore. He's my brother at this point. But yeah, so he took a hiatus last year, and mainly just because of his scheduling and all that. So he took a break, and now we're here. We're back in. It's gonna be we'll explain his scheduling because he's not gonna be out here for every episode. But yeah, Edward's back. He kind of surprised me too. I'm not gonna lie. He told me, yeah, he's like, yeah, I want to record, and so here we are. We did an episode. We did this episode. A little rusty. Obviously, it's been a while since Edward has recorded, so we did veer off a little bit in this episode, which is fine. Kind of brought me back to when we first started this podcast, but we'll definitely be a little bit more structured. We'll try to stay focused on the topic, but this episode, we kind of have an overreaction, so you'll hear that. We're also gonna have headlines. We're gonna talk about Marcus Rashford, Miguel Piojo Herrera taking the Costa Rica job. We're also gonna talk about MLS schedule, the MLS schedule change, the potential schedule change. Edward will not be on that one because I honestly completely forgot about it when we were just in the conversation in general we were having. I completely forgot about that headline, so you'll probably hear me do that headline, and then we'll go ahead and talk about Camp Cupcake of the U.S. men's national team. If you guys aren't familiar, every January the U.S. men's national team does a call-up, which is referred to as Camp Cupcake because it's not a FIFA sanctioned international break. So with that being said, you're kind of limited with the options as far as friendlies goes. So we'll go ahead and talk about Camp Cupcake, and as far as any potential players that you might want to watch, it's an interesting call up for sure, but we'll see what happens there. Announce players of the week, give you guys some games to look forward to this coming weekend, and no closing segment just because I think this episode kind of went a little longer than I thought, but that's fine. And that's perfectly fine anyways. But yeah, so maybe I'll bring in a thought. Just maybe that might be like my closing segment, but yeah, and then we'll wrap the show up, and yeah. So sit back, relax, enjoy episode 201. And hey, Edward's back. So if you guys are familiar with Edward from from previous Insert Name FC episodes, um, I'm sure you guys are excited. But for those of you who are not familiar with Edward, well, here's your chance to enjoy Edward. So, but yeah, so we'll kick things off with essentially some sort of overreaction. So we'll go in there. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, we have headlines, and if you're watching the video form of this episode, you notice that there's a certain Timo Werner with the Insert Name FC logo over his face appearing on my side, and that's because Edward's back.
Hey, and by the way, hate you for that still, for the Timo Warner thing. But no, not really, not really. Oh,
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think he scored a hat trick yet, so
not yet, not yet. Yeah, he's gonna have to either go to Saudi or to the Saudi League or I mean MLS
I,
somewhere.
I,
He might hit a hat trick. He might
I
or
had
Sunday
to.
League.
I actually had to look it up to see if he was still with Tottenham, and yes, he's still with
He's still
Tottenham.
a ton, but isn't he on loan
He's
somewhere
loaned to Tottenham.
from Chelsea, right?
No, not
No,
from Chelsea. They remember he got sold back to
that's
RB
right.
Leipzig, and then
That's right. Yep, yep, yep. You're right. You're right.
which is funny because
Dang.
then when he went back to Leipzig, he scores a goal, and then yeah, after that I didn't hear anything from him. Then he had that the first stint with Tottenham, and then he's back with Tottenham. So um yeah, weird. Uh, but
Yeah.
yes, but yes, Edward is back. He's not going to be on every episode. He's actually going to be essentially in every other episode, and that's because obviously single father of twin boys. So
Yep.
so
My schedule's been very hectic, but you know what? I wanted to make time for the show, so I talked to Hector. We talked it out, and yeah, I'm happy to be back.
so the beef is squashed.
Whatever beef we had, I didn't even know we had a beef. So whatever beef we had, it's squashed. It's done.
Dang it,
We're
we should have been milking this, man. We should have like had where me and you hated each other and
Bro, make it like a novela? What? I mean, that's true. I mean, technically, when it comes to a Clásico, we do get to that point. But I
yeah.
think it's like but after that, it's just like, okay, we're back to normal, you know? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then speaking of El Clasico, Barcelona is currently up 5-2 with 8 minutes of stoppage time right now. It's in the 92nd minute mark.
8 minutes, man.
Yeah, that Chesney red card really milked a lot of time. So, but yeah, so I mean, okay, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Barcelona is winning the Spanish Super Cup. Uh, okay, so Edward, I'm sure you listened to the interview with Hafid from
Hmm.
aka Barca Boy, and how he viewed the Spanish Super Cup is a positive for Barcelona, especially after the year that they had the year before. Um, it, I mean, obviously, this isn't a trophy to flex. You and
I
me,
already know, I already know your views on the trophy. It's like, yeah, you're just like, yeah.
yeah, which I then got accused of being a Barca fan for complaining
I
about it.
remember that.
The, yeah. I can't do anything. Apparently, also Kelsey and I are Peter Griffin, so uh,
So,
from
I have no
the
idea.
whole
Oh
American
man.
bias thing. But look,
Whew.
am I gonna hit the nail on the? Am I gonna hit the nail with the hammer every time? No. But yeah, kind of going back to this question, Edward. Obviously, like I said, Barcelona's unless Real Madrid can somehow shit out 4 goals in 5 minutes. Um, yeah, this trophy for what Barcelona has gone through, obviously going through the whole financial struggles, they're now back to a good financial status where whatever money comes into the club, they can actually use the money to go and buy players. So As far for you winning the Spanish Super Cup, it's like I said, half it feels like it's a positive to take for Barcelona at least to go into the second half of the season with. For you, how what do you hold any significance to winning this cup, or you kind of it's kind of or you're trying to see another? Is there another tournament that you think is more that would make you feel more positive about Barcelona right now?
Honestly, winning this is just basically cementing that they're, up top in La Liga. Not La Liga, but like, in the Spanish league. Uh, and they're still up there in the league in La Liga. They're still up on the top. But honestly, the only way that I can see them cementing anything at all, that they're back on top, that they're basically a force to be reckoned with, would be winning the Champions League, or at least getting out, making it to the finals, making it to the semis, like somewhere around there, instead of just getting out of group and then getting knocked out like the very first round. Especially now with this new, um, I'll call it what you call it, the Super League going around here.
Oh, the super. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, they reopened that. They reopened at least the idea of the Super League, but now it's going to be more. It's going to be
well,
inclusive.
no.
So
What I'm saying is I'm referring to the Champions League as the Super League because it's technically what it is now, the way that they kind of
it's kind of
implemented
fun.
it.
It's kind of funny now because I wonder what like. I honestly think now that I look at it, because like we said, this new Champions League format, it is essentially the Super League. Like what the big clubs were hoping for the European Super, at least the format goes, but obviously it's inclusive. So that's the difference. But um weirdly enough, like this format though, I think it actually it benefits like some smaller teams because all right, if you look at the table, right, at the giant table, Liverpool's up top because they're undefeated. Barcelona's in second place, followed by
Hmm.
Arsenal, Leverkusen, Aston Villa, Inter Milan, Brest, and Lille. They're from first to eighth. Those are the teams that essentially will be automatically qualified to the round of 16. And the teams that are like one, PSG is 25th. That's the first spot that doesn't make it to the next round. Like they're done if they don't move up.
Right.
That the team that has 24th is Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb is
Damn,
it in the and that's
that's it.
and that's and once again, if for people that aren't familiar with this, ninth to 24th place, those spots are going to a knockout round. So the winner then advances to the round of 16, and then they get drawing for the round of 16. But but yeah, like the teams that, as far as like any surprising teams, it's PSG. PSG is a team that's like shocked that they're in that part. But I mean, basically, I did nope. Real Madrid didn't score a goal, so it's still 2-5. Um, yeah, so like Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Milan, Atalanta, Juventus, Benfica, Monaco, Sporting, Feyenoord, Club Brugge, Real Madrid, Celtic, Man City, PSV, and Dinamo Zagreb. Just to list the teams that I last mentioned are all like in the bottom where they could possibly miss out on it. Obviously, they got to win games and get back into it. And I mean, also the fact this is the first Champions League where Real Madrid lost 3 games, like in the first round.
Yeah,
And so it's unprecedented, but it's like how open this table is. And I'm kind of curious, but I'm not gonna do all that math. So God forbid I do that. But
yeah.
I would be intrigued. Maybe someone did it and it's over. Barcelona are the Spanish Super Cup champions. Um, I would be intrigued to see like if you put all like everybody's all the teams from last year from the group round. Obviously, when they used to still do groups, if you were to put them all on the giant table, who would be those teams that are up top? Because we've seen it plenty of times where a group that has just the second place team was just god awful, but
Yeah,
they got enough to just make it to the next round. Um, I would be intrigued to see like who would be in that top eight spot, and then who would be in that playing for a knockout round. Once again, I'm not doing that. That's a lot of
it's a
Excel.
lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of processing and like yeah, a lot of
but it
like
would.
to do it just in one fell swoop. Like we'd have to sit down, take our time, and do all that right now. But just off the top of our head,
So
this is
like
what Hector's going on with.
yeah, and so I think what's interesting enough is that this format kind of helps out the teams because I mean essentially what this Champions League format is, you're guaranteed two games against a top tier club.
Hmm.
So whatever's in that group that in that first pot, which is all the league winners and all that, and then pot B still good team, just maybe we're a runner up. That C tier maybe it's a mid team, and then the D tier is obviously like you should probably beat the crap out of this team. And weirdly enough, like because you're doing that, it actually evens out the playing field a little bit. Because you're gonna, for Real Madrid's case, they had to play against AC Milan and Liverpool, um, who they both lost to. So I think weirdly enough, these big clubs were hoping to get more money from playing more game, more going further in the tournament. They probably would much rather have been in the group stages, but um, yeah, I think that I've actually been liking this new Champions League format. Yeah, like you said, it's the Super League. It is the
Yeah,
European Super League.
it's pretty much yeah, the European Super League.
But weirdly enough, it actually helps out the smaller teams because like I
Yeah,
mentioned,
it does.
Aston Villa. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying Aston Villa is bad, but I mean if you
They're not a team that they're not top four or top six.
like
Like
where
they're
the
always like mid-table. Sometimes they're really low table. I think Aston Villa at the moment,
they're currently eighth in the Premier League. So like
yeah, so they wouldn't have made it. I think they wouldn't have made it right now if it was champions, you know. Top four teams, I think in the EPO are the ones that make it, and then the fifth place, I think it goes to the um not the Champions League, but the Super Cup.
yeah.
Yeah, they make it to that. So eighth place, they wouldn't make it, period. But with like you said, this new format, it gives them a little something something.
No, yeah, exactly. Like I think yeah, this opens up more opportunities. Like the group stage, like honestly, the when they did have groups, it did favor because obviously if you're that big team playing, like for instance Real Madrid, somehow always got Shakhtar Donetsk, maybe Inter Milan, and then I don't know third team out. Let's just throw Benfica in there. Um, I mean, Inter Milan would probably be your tougher opponent, but you got two matches with Dinamo with Shakhtar Donetsk, and then you have two matches with Benfica. So like
Hmm.
you're I'm not gonna say you're guaranteed four wins, but you're at least a draw or better, if you will. And then depending on how you do with Inter Milan, it just depends how you play against them. But either maybe you come out with a win and maybe 3 points with Inter Milan, but still a good a good amount of points that will put you on top or at least in that second place position where you still go to the round of 16. So
Yeah,
I think that weirdly enough the because all the big clubs were hoping for this, right? Because like the teams that and I understand it, the argument. Obviously, the teams that were in the group of death, for example, last year were PSG, Borussia Dortmund, AC Milan, and Newcastle. Um, they're not if they two teams can only move up, right? But
all right.
so funny enough, I think that even though at first I was very hesitant, here we are, and I'm actually kind of liking what I'm seeing, even as a Madrista, having to watch Real Madrid flirting in that bottom part,
Oh
it
yeah. No, well,
but
they're
it's still to me enjoyable because it's now a very much open competition.
yeah. I mean, the fact that PSG is all the way at the bottom, it's not like they can't come back out. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like it,
there's two games left, so two games left, and they gotta make them count.
basically they got the Dynamo, what is it?
Zagreb,
Dynamo Zagreb. Basically, they got to just mess up royally, and then PSG, like you say, can't mess up those games. Because I
yeah,
think
exactly.
with the point system that they have, I think the last four or five teams, they're not too far back out, are they? Let me see.
Well, it's
Da-da-da-da.
all random. Like the
Yeah,
schedule's
it's a
random, but
yeah.
what's PSG's last games? at least Champions League. Uh,
Because look,
Great podcasting, by the way.
so
Okay,
no,
they
no,
got.
but well,
Oh, okay, okay. Look at this. They have
uh-huh.
Manchester City. They have
Ooh,
Manchester City for their the first match of this year, and then their last match is VIP Stuttgart. So once again, PSG kind of hasn't been great in the Champions League so far. Funny enough, they're undefeated in Ligue 1, but no one cares. But yeah, you got Man City, who I don't know. Since the year started, they look completely different from how they looked the year, like the first half of the season. So I mean, I still think that that's not a team you sleep on. And then VfB Stuttgart could be frisky, So I think you maybe hope that that VfB Stuttgart has kind of more, and they're in the top part of like at least the knockout round. So they're at least going to be moving up to the like to that one knockoff round to see who goes to the round of 16. So at least there's that for them. So maybe they'll be like kind of we don't really need to play this game because we have nothing to play for unless there's an opportunity for them to get into the first of the first between first and eighth place. Then that's a whole different story. But that do I see that happening? I don't know. I don't really think so. So PSG is kind of like Man City is going to kind of be a tough one for them, but hoping maybe that VfB Stuttgart is meant at that point is checked out because they've either secured their position or they don't have a shot at getting eighth place. So I think that it's just going to open up some opportunities, but I think PSG has quite the road ahead of them in these last two games.
yep.
As far as the Champions League, Dinamo Zagreb. Man, this is probably the first time I ever looked up Dinamo Zagreb in my life. Um, well, they had that one coach that went to jail. But
Well, what I was
oh,
gonna say,
they got Arsenal and AC Milan.
well,
So,
okay, so what I was gonna say is Man City right now is like 22nd, they're 22nd place apparently,
yeah,
and
so
in
they'll be playing,
yeah, they'll be playing they're in the playoff spots.
and they're gonna want to keep that spot, or at least improve it. But
They want to. I'm pretty sure they're gonna try to improve it. They're gonna
yeah,
try to work on that.
for sure. I'm not necessarily too worried about it. But like I said, PSG has quite the road. It would be hilarious if they don't make it, especially when you see Lille and Brest doing
Oh
fairly
yeah,
well in the Champions League. So I think that would just it's like, oh man, PSG can never figure it out. Uh,
right.
but I don't know. I'm really kind of intrigued right now with Champions League just because of at first I thought this format was gonna suck, but now I'm kind of liking where
You're
things are going.
excited. Yeah, you're excited
I
about
at
it.
this point I actually have no idea who's gonna win the champ. I mean, Liverpool at this point seems like a really safe bet because they're just in a different level right now.
Oh yeah, they're on a whole different kind of spiel there.
Barcelona right now in the Champions League looks pretty good. I don't think that obviously the only concern is can they get that form back from earlier this year from the early in the first half because obviously second half Barcelona I feel like they kind of dipped off a little bit.
Yeah,
But I think hopefully well they just won the Spanish Super Cup so I'm pretty sure they at least have some confidence going in. Copa del Rey is starting to come on. There's a lot to play for Barcelona. I think that they're gonna have there's confidence right now if you're Barcelona.
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
outright. That's that
straight up. You're not lying. There's
you just won El Clasico again in a blowout. So
and yeah, I honestly, when you told me it was 5-2, I was like, huh? Because I'll be honest, like, had to deal with some stuff, personal stuff here at home. But I don't, I didn't put the game on. But yeah, just when he told me it was like 5-2, I was like, what? I was like, damn. I was like, well, I
and
wasn't expecting that. And all I could think of
of course
was,
the game that they put on ABC. So they had it on public for the public eye. And of course,
uh,
it's a game that ends up in a blowout. I've noticed the trend with these ABC matches that they tend to be heavily one-sided because I believe the at least the last one I recall was when they had their classer Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, and Bayern Munich like really ran away with that game.
yeah,
So yeah, the ABC game it never ends up being a tightly contested game, but just funny though because the way this Super Cup started, it seemed. that it looked like, okay, Mbappe found the goal. He's not going to get caught offside for a million times again. But so you felt different, but then Lamine Yamal just, bro, that kid is too good. I hate that I hate that I can't enjoy watching him play. Um, I mean, obviously when he wears the Spanish kit, it's a different story.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, yeah, it sucks. Like he's good.
Remember how we everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody thought that, oh, it's gonna be a Haaland Mbappe kind of generation. Hell no. Like
No, I'm so
La,
excited
La,
for the future of this game, man.
dude, we all thought, well, like once basically like Messi, he's in MLS, Ronaldo, he's in Saudi. Everybody was like, okay.
Maybe comes to the MLS.
I mean, that's supposedly that's the thing. That's what they were going for. But then everybody was like, okay, the next generation. We even you and me, we talked about this. We talked about this on the podcast. We thought it was going to be Erling Haaland and an Mbappe kind of up and coming. It's going to be the next Messi and Ronaldo and stuff. And the next face off. Now it's like Lamine Yamal, and I'm not saying that Erling Haaland's out of the running, but it's like Lamine Yamal when it comes to the Clásico. It's Lamine Yamal versus Vinicius. Like that's how I see it.
Really? You wouldn't put it on? You wouldn't give it to Jude Bellingham?
Or actually, yeah, I take it back. Not Vinicius, but Jude Bellingham. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like
it's so
because Jude
crazy,
Bellingham is just crazy good. Like he can play as a false
bro.
nine, hardcore.
They're so young too. That like when you really think about it, like Rodrigo, I think just turned 22 or something like that,
Yeah,
and like the kid's got like an impressive trophy case already.
yeah.
So Jesus Christ, man. If Brazil can finally get their things in order, man, that I mean, on paper they should be good, but I don't know what's going on with Brazil. That's an interesting story for another day. But yeah, man. Congratulations, Barcelona, Spanish Super Cup. Like shout out to Hafid. He said that this was a good place to start for Barcelona to get a positive result, get a trophy after a year that they didn't get a trophy. So
Hmm.
I think look, do I clown on on Super Cups? I do. Do I rate like and for people to try to understand why I don't value this trophy too much because it's not a trophy that necessarily holds like I'm sure Edward is not gonna when if Spanish Super Cup and then they win Copa del Rey and La Liga, he's not gonna say, oh, we got a treble. He's probably gonna say we got a double. I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
I'm just like, like I said, the trouble doesn't come until the Champions League is in there.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I'm going. That's what I mean by it. But there is those trophies where you're like, hey, I think the thing that's unique about, especially like the Supercoppa Italia, right? AC Milan beating Juventus and beating Inter Milan to win the Supercoppa Italia. Um, it's a lot of positives to take in. They just got they now have a new coach. It's a step in the right direction to get AC Milan back on track to be up in a hopefully in a Champions League position for next year because right now they're still on the outside looking in. Uh, and so I mean so that's what I mean that there's certain trophies that can hold significance. I think it is smart that they have the Super Cups, at least the Spanish and the Italian Super Cup in January versus in the summer because you do your preseason tour, and that's kind of your way to get right in some sense. But the Spanish Super Cup, because you have a break from the holiday season, you come
Right.
back and you go into this kind of tournament, and it kind of gets you get right. And I mean, Premier League kind of has that because obviously they have FA Cup. They've been doing FA Cup, which speaking of that, Manchester United beating Arsenal in penalties, uh, which is funny because Manchester United was down a man because they got a red
Oh
card
yeah.
and beat Arsenal in penalties. Um, I mean, and like I said, positive result for Manchester United, especially of all the stuff that they've gone through with the firing of Ten Hag. Now you got Ruben Amorim, so hoping to pursue some hardware.
Yep.
Um, Arsenal, they got to do some soul searching. I don't think they're
Yeah.
necessarily
I
out of
saw.
any. They're not out of at least the Premier League, Carabao Cup. You could probably argue that they might be out of that one, but yeah, I think in time we'll see what happens there. But yeah, man. Let's go right into headlines, man, because
I was gonna tell you, I was like, I actually saw a meme. I think it was a Martinelli. They're like $65 million flop, can't even make a penalty. And I was just like, damn, that's cold-blooded.
Hey man, that's my son.
I'm saying that I saw the meme. That's all I'm saying. I saw the meme.
Yeah,
That was it.
I know, I know. It
But
hurts. It
it
hurts.
hurts. It hurts your soul.
It's my kid. It's my adopted son. But
You're out of like how many, dude, if it was up to you, you would literally have your own soccer team of sons with all the adoptive sons that you have.
I mean, it's just what Martinelli, Rodrigo, um,
Bellingham,
Timothy Weah. No, I never adopted Bellingham.
I thought you did.
No,
Mm.
no, it's Rodrigo, Martinelli, Timothy Weah, and Valverde.
And Valverde.
Yeah, those are
Isn't Valverde your age?
no. What? No.
Really?
Danny Carvajal is my age. Valverde's like 24, I think.
No, ain't no way. He's in his late 20s at least.
Federico Valverde?
Hmm.
He's
He might be
26.
20. Yeah, I was about to say 26, 27.
He's 26.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not my age. I
I
wish I
mean,
could I wish I
I
could
was
say
about to
he's my
say,
age.
I was about to say, I was like, yeah, I was like, don't you wish that? Like,
I wish I could be 26 again.
right? Go back to that generation.
Oh man, no, I don't know. I don't think I want to be Gen Z. So wait, would he be Gen Z?
Uh, yeah, I don't, yeah, I think so.
Let's see. Valverde was born in 98. What classifies Gen Z? It
Uh,
is
two
1990.
or
Yeah, so
like,
he would be Gen Z.
I
It's
was about to say,
from 1997 to 2012. And then, us are millennials. So,
yeah,
but yeah, no. No, no, and I have contemplated on adopting Lamine Yamal, but I still don't know how I feel about that. Um,
you're like, I only love him in the
bro,
in the
it's like
Spanish jersey,
he's so good. And then even that when he
dude.
wears the even in Barca, dude, I'm like, dude, this kid is just so fucking good. And I just
He's just nasty. Like he's raw. It's raw. Like the talent, the speed, his footwork is
man,
crazy.
I don't know what Messi put in that water in that photo shoot, but like Jesus Christ.
He must have put some of his spit in there.
Well, okay, well, let's not go there. Remember, Lamine Yamal was an infant.
Uh, well, maybe he pulled. I mean, if you guys are listening, if you guys that are listening are like anime fans, you like My Hero Academia. How Izuku Midoriya got his power was by the fact that he ate
Oh,
one of All
yeah,
Might's hairs.
yeah.
And then basically Messi's eyelash probably landed in the water and while it got poured on him. You know what I mean?
All right, Lamine Yamal's Deku. Um, except Lamine Yamal didn't take forever to figure out his powers because
I mean, 17 years is a long time. I'm just saying.
yeah, but 16 years old and and actually doing well against like grown men. Like I
Yep,
mean, and then I mean he was balling
that's
through the
true.
Euro. He turned 17 at the
Oh yeah, that's
he
true.
he turned 17
He
at the
turned 17
final.
at yeah.
Like I think the
Yeah,
day
so
before the final.
I think he's the youngest goal scorer in the Euros right now
Hmm.
with that crazy ass like goal that he scored outside the box. I
Bro,
think that was like it was his first goal in the Euros. Of course, I don't think anybody was really expecting him to be scoring. They just thought, oh, he's gonna be playing. But as soon as he did that shot and he just ding, ding, like right in there, oh bro. And I think it was like 2 days. Like, I think it was like 3 days or 4 days that he was gonna turn 17. So he was like 16 and some change.
yeah, no, he's special. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean this year for Barcelona. I mean, I will say I know it's for some Barca fans, Hafid specifically, it has been overwhelming, and I agree. It's not a perfect season. Neither is it for Real Madrid. I mean, there's a reason why. I think Atletico is well. I don't think Atletico's on top of the table right now, but I think it's because Real Madrid played a game in hand. But I think this is one of those weird years. And everyone knows like whenever it's a weird year in La Liga, it's somehow Atletico Madrid is the team that wins it. But I don't know, man. The way Hansi Flick has his team playing that high press, it works kind of well to what they have available for the team because they have a lot of pacey players.
No, that's the
Um,
thing. It's like it's all about the youth, and the youth. All these guys want to do is just run.
yeah,
Like they
so
want to take the ball and run and
so the,
dribble.
the the high line works perfectly to what this Barca team has. But and obviously Real Madrid is still trying to figure things out with Mbappe. And yeah, and I mean Atletico Madrid still very good team, plays very solidly, very sturdy, similar to
Hmm.
Diego Simeone. So
Yep.
I can't hate too much. I can, but not too much. But yeah, man. But all right, let's get to headlines. Yeah, I think I don't know how far we've been in now, but we haven't even touched a single headline. Uh,
Yep.
all right, first headline, which we mentioned Manchester United. Marcus Rashford, obviously at one point was viewed as a promising star for Manchester United and probably even for the English national team. Um, well, let's be honest, like he hasn't really been playing this much this season. I believe his last game was in on my birthday, December 12th, um, which was a Europa League game against Victoria Pleasant. Um, so I mean, essentially, since Ruben Amorim has taken over, he's kind of fallen out of favor of the team. Um, yeah, he's at this point, it makes sense for him to look elsewhere. But I think also for Manchester United as well because Rashford's salary. I don't know. I've looked everywhere. Some places that has him at 300. Some have him more than 300. But roughly, I'm just gonna average it to 350K. He makes 350K a week.
Damn.
Um, that's a high ass salary for a guy that's not playing. Uh, or at least not playing as much. And even did not play in the FA Cup game either. So yeah. Uh, yeah. What is it about Marcus Rashford right now? I know maybe you haven't been really paying too much attention to Manchester United, but um, what is it that he's just not? Is it just that he doesn't fit to the tactics of Ten Hag and I guess now Ruben Amorim's, or what was it that is? What is it about Marcus Rashford that just things aren't clicking?
Man, I'm gonna be honest. Personally, um, so I think what's going on with Manchester United is like they're they're kind of building the team around Holian and Garnacho. Like, they're trying to
I don't think it's Garnacho
they're
anymore, man.
no, like that's the thing. It's like we don't see it or we don't think it is, but I think so. It's like because I mean, if you look at it like, oh no, you know what? No, I take it back. I take it back. Um, oh, what's his name? He's real young.
Diallo.
Diallo. There you go.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I
Diallo.
don't think it's Garnacho. I think it's Diallo.
Yeah, no, it's Diallo. Like I think they're trying to build like basically the wings all over again. The midfield, they're trying to build a team right around that. Holden just luckily he fits in the piece, and I think that's one thing where Marcus Rashford, what he brings is, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, he brings speed, he brings that dribbling. It's just I think they're looking for somebody who can finish because sometimes Marcus Rashford will take the ball all the way and then all of a sudden like just hits the ball, just miss hits the ball, and it's just like a kind of like a bad luck kind of turn. It's nothing serious, like but the thing is it's like in a clutch moment, you expect you expect a clutch move, especially if you're expected to clutch it for Manchester United. And he's loved at Manchester United, like the fans love him. He was playing early on when they had what you call it, what was his name? The French kid. He was Manchester United. He was their striker for a little bit. Like, but they remember they were
Anthony Martial.
Martial, there you go. Yeah. They were he played with him, remember? Marcus Rashford.
Hmm.
He played with him too. It's just basically Marcus Rashford is just you could say, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him or anything, but he's like a leftover relic from that team, from that generation, from that era where they were trying to build that team up. And then now that the coaches keep switching over and over, Ten Hag, I guess, saw no use in him. And now this coach is using like that same kind of game plan, but I think he's more of a player coach instead of a disciplinarian.
Hmm.
So instead of him being just a hard ass, because if you look at it, the last time that they actually had a coach that let's put it that way, it was as like a disciplinarian, like somebody who basically, if you do what I don't say, you're not gonna end up playing. That was Alex Ferguson. But
I don't know.
but
I
if
think
you
Ragnick was trying to implement that, but obviously that didn't pan out.
no, well, no, the thing is, so what I'm trying to get at is like the way that Alex Ferguson would talk to his players, but then also he was let him know I'm not about the bullshit. Like Ten Hag basically came in and he seemed like he was like, I'm not about the bullshit. But then he would also, maybe he wasn't that type of coach where he would try to get along, like, how a lot of players are like, man, you know what, being in this team is like a family, like this coach, the gaffer, like, he made me feel like
Too
a
many Michael Scotts is what you're saying in Manchester United.
pretty much, dude. Like they're not trying to implement kind of like that, like a little bit of leniency. They're
Hmm.
they're trying to be too hard. And I think that's also a thing that's affecting Man U, where they hardly have that
No, yeah,
anymore. So it's
I can
like,
see that. I can see that. I mean, I think a lot of people have talked about it. The culture of Manchester United is kind of where, and I mean, we saw how toxic it can be when you have Cristiano Ronaldo speaking on it with Piers Morgan, and obviously as soon as he did that, basically, essentially created his exit door for him,
yeah.
which he then ended up
Well,
leaving Manchester United. But then you kind of realize this club isn't Manchester United isn't the same club from the time with Sir Alex Ferguson.
no, exactly. And that's the thing too. It can't be that club if you're gonna go ahead and kick out every coach that comes through. Like honestly, bro, like Ole Gunnar, he was a player's coach. Like he was a player's coach. Like he was a manager that was for the players. That's why he was like, okay, you know what? I like the way you play. I'm gonna put you here. Like Ole Gunnar was just legit, just that. He was just a coach that was never like a disciplinarian. He was never strict about it. He was a player's coach. Yes, that's always a good thing because you get along with your players, but then it's like they don't take you serious if you show up late to training, if you don't show up for training, if you mess up in the game, you don't have, like, I'm not saying he doesn't have the passion, but it's just like he's more lenient. He has like I guess you could say a gentler kind of heart kind of mindset because he's very just he was because remember, think about it. We even had the whole oh Gunner, like the shirts and everything.
I really want to bring
So
that shirt back.
dude, honestly, I wouldn't mind bringing back oh Gunner. The thing is, there's gotta be a coach that has some sort of like legacy that follows him for the players to be like, you know what? I'm gonna respect this man, because that's what Alex Ferguson brought. He was legit like that. Like dude, how many years and how many Champions Leagues, how many well not how many Champions Leagues, I'm sorry, how many EPLs he would win, how many FA Cups, Community Shields he would win. Like it's something that players could see, okay, he'll bring silverware for us, like he'll bring silverware. But like we said, sometimes we can't have Alex Ferguson for another 20 years, it has to be done like where he has to retire. Like, everybody has to retire. We can't have,
I get that, and I mean to some extent, I think him having the proper send off where they won the title, I believe, in his final year.
oh yeah.
Um, and it just sucks that like they haven't been able to really replicate that. I feel like and maybe it's one of those things where you have like you have essentially this like teacher that's well respected, and they it's kind of doesn't take any shit housery from anyone, and so like even and then when they don't show up to school one day because either they're not feeling well or something like that, whenever the substitute teacher comes in, they start being all crazy,
Yeah.
the students, and I think that's kind of what it was. Because I mean, it's the same players, the same group of players, at least at one point,
Yeah.
and David Moyes. I mean,
Oh God, that was horrible.
didn't work out well for him, and then that's when Van Gaal came, and then that's when Jose Mourinho came, and then um, I guess after that was Ole Gunnar. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, so and yeah, it hasn't really been the same since. Like they haven't really been able to gain anything replicant to that of Sir Alex Ferguson's time. But I mean, kind of coming back to this whole Marcus Rashford thing, obviously that his problem is just that he's not playing. He's fallen out of grace with the club, um, which happens. If you're not consistent and you're not performing, you're not. There's no reason to keep calling your number. And obviously right now Manchester United is in a position where they got another new coach. They're still, by the way, they're still paying Ten Hag. They fired him, but they still got to pay out the
Yeah, they
rest.
got to pay out the payout. Yeah. Which
Um,
I mean, Manchester United doesn't have problem with paying anybody. It's just they want
which
to see
which is one
results.
of the things that like I kind of have started saying over the time. I'm like, I don't know how long you can keep blaming. Well, now you can't blame the Glazers anymore because now you have Enios now running the club,
Hmm.
but I mean like, or maybe yeah, kind of, I think now Enios is now taking over. Um, but I think, and I've said it time and time again, at the time, Ten Hag was looked at as the next promising manager. Manchester United went and got him. It didn't pan out. It happens, right?
Yep.
There are all those cases where there's a lot of hype behind somebody. An Anthony, like,
Oh
oh, this
God.
this guy's the missing piece. Manchester United got him. So they're not afraid to go after the the
Like
the
the
least.
next big thing that's being announced,
Yeah,
basically.
they don't shy away from getting the next hype thing. Jadon Sancho, everybody was like, "Hey man, look what he's doing at Borussia Dortmund. He's ready to come back to the Premier League." What
Yep.
did Manchester United got him? You know, did he pan out? No, and they weren't even playing him. Um,
Yep. Exactly. Oh that. Oh, what was it? Donny Van de Beek?
Donny Van de Beek, yeah, that whole debacle. But once again, to me, like there's a bigger problem than just ownership and it seems to be at this point. I have no idea what's the issue. Is it the locker room? I don't know. Ronaldo tried to point out the flaws with it. People said he was crazy. Old man yells at cloud, and it's looking more and more like he knew what was going on. But like I said, coming back to Marcus Rashford because we're talking about his situation.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, his salary is just his salary is too high, and that's too much money for somebody that needs to
He's
get
just on
out.
the bench. Yeah.
Be on the bench. And then if Manchester United wants to make moves this January for Ruben Amorim, because obviously they're trying to, I believe they're trying to go after basically a lot of guys from Sporting, because I think Inacio was the center back was one of the names. I don't know why they're going after him. I guess they don't believe in Delict too much. But Inacio, which I mean another strong center back option. So I mean, not necessarily a bad idea. I know the forward they've been rumored with the forward for Sporting, which I think by the way right now I think he broke Cristiano Ronaldo's record by the way. I'm not entirely sure.
In Sporting?
Yeah, so
Ooh,
they're
dang.
they're thinking about going after him, but they can't really make moves when you have this guy on your payroll. Um,
Yep.
so so that's why they're trying to ship him away somewhere. But once again, that salary is too high for anybody.
Yep.
AC Milan has seemed to be the most intrigued, but they also told Manchester United like we can't pay his whole salary. Like you guys gotta take some of it. Which I think Marcus Rashford and AC Milan would is interesting because I mean look what it's done for a lot of players that haven't had great stints in the Premier League, um, or at least wasn't getting much playing time in the Premier League, and then
I mean, yeah, look at Pulisic when he was in Chelsea.
I think Christian Pulisic's situation is a combination of just him not being physically
Healthy.
available. Yeah. I think it's
No,
a
I know.
combination of that and just can't wasn't very consistent too much for Chelsea.
Yeah.
But Loftus Cheek has come on to AC Milan. Kind of similar was a Chelsea player. Tomori, another Chelsea player, wasn't really playing too much with Chelsea. Goes on loan with AC Milan. AC Milan was like, we like this guy, keep him here. Now Chelsea's trying to is prepared to spend a lot of money for him. So full circle moment on that part. But it seemed to be working out well for them. Is it that Serie A is a lesser league? I don't really know. I feel like I've enjoyed more Serie A matches than I've enjoyed Premier League matches so far this year. But I think it could be a good start for him. The only issue is that where is Marcus Rash if Marcus Rashford is going to play, where is he going to play? Because you have a lot of attacking options, by the way. Not, I'm not going to say all their names, but Rafael Leao, that I mean, he needs to get in some sort of form. I know he has 12 goal contributions from the first half of the season. Christian Pulisic is the hot guy right now, so I don't. He's not. Christian Pulisic isn't losing his spot anytime soon. I
No, he's
think,
not. He's not.
unless he gets injured. But he's been
And at that
healthy.
point,
But he's
yeah,
been
he's been
pretty
healthy.
healthy.
Knock
Knock
on
on
wood.
wood, he's been pretty healthy so far this year, so that's great. And Tammy Abraham, who's on loan from Roma, has also done quite well for himself. Actually scored a goal, I believe, in the Super Cup final. So, yeah, like where does Marcus Rashford play? Where do you put him in? I mean, I will say Christian Pulisic has moved in that 10 spot. They moved him around in the attacking third for AC Milan. He's played on the left, he's played on the right, he's played on that cam role. Is that an idea? Maybe having Rafael Leao on the left, Christian Pulisic at that 10 role, and Marcus Rashford on the right side, and either Tammy Abraham or Morata up front. Like, is that what AC Milan is thinking? But we don't know what they're thinking because first they got to be willing to pay that salary, and
Yeah,
I think that's right now the problem is that salary is way too high. But my concern for Marcus Rashford, if he wants to go somewhere where he's going to play, is AC Milan really that place for him to play? Especially
right.
when you look at some of the other options for him, because Borussia Dortmund has mentioned interest, which some people were kind of finding that intriguing, especially because look what happened with Jadon Sancho last year, where
Oh
Jadon
yeah.
was loaned back to Borussia Dortmund, was part of the Champions League final, didn't win the Champions League final, but was still in the Champions League final. And now he's in his another loan, but now with Chelsea. Uh, so that's an interest. I think that's interesting. Uh, West Ham United. Um, I think it's a slight downgrade, but I mean, if he wants to play, that's definitely a place to be at. Napoli. I think Napoli's interesting because I believe not gonna try to say that guy's name, but the player from Georgia, the country Georgia,
Oh,
not the state.
no, 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 I know, I know, I know.
I
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
believe
can't say his name either.
I believe he's going to. I believe he's rumored to go to PSG. So there's a spot open there for him. And I mean,
Hmm.
Antonio Conte, Napoli, looking really good, looking to contend for the Serie A. So maybe that's a good place for him. And Juventus is another team that's interested in Marcus Rashford. So while AC Milan is and then regardless of the fact, like regardless of what team they go to, Manchester United is going to have to bite a little bit of the bullet. They're going to have to be willing to pay part of that salary, a good chunk of that salary, regardless.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that the options are pretty interesting. I think for me, ideally would be Napoli. I think if that spot is open for Marcus Rashford to at least compete for, I think that could be a good place. Antonio Conte, I mean, we know what he can do in the Serie A, so I think that that's a good place for him to get back in the right mindset. Juventus, intriguing, kind of a dumpster fire right now,
Yeah.
but I think also not a bad place to be. West Ham United might be the most like I can confidently say he has a shot at making at least being on the starting 11.
Hmm.
Um, Borussia Dortmund, I don't know what the hell's going on over there, to be honest.
I don't know. I don't
But
know.
and I mean maybe that's the right place for him as well. Borussia Dortmund has done a lot of great things for players that need just a second chance. Um, a second chance to prove their worth. So I think that that's not a bad place either. Uh, But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know where they go from here. I don't know if AC Milan's the right move for Marcus Rashford. I think it's intriguing. I just don't know where he's gonna play. But if I had to rank them, and this is just me, Edward, but I would put Napoli on top as far as a place where I
for him to land on, like
yeah,
for
I
him to
think
actually get play time, for him to get a decent. I'm not saying he's gonna get the whole 350K, but at least a decent pay. Like a decent pay where he could be like, I'll get my playing time, and I'll also get paid decently to play.
well,
Because I
yeah,
mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I think anybody would be like, you know what, I'm getting paid 350K a week just to ride a pine. Like I mean, it's just. I mean, maybe because we'd be considered journeymen. I'd be like, hey, 350K to sit on the bench, maybe play like 2 minutes. I'm down, and that's on the best case scenario. So I think Napoli, you're right. Napoli would be the best bet. I mean, yeah, Napoli would be the best bet because
yeah,
like I don't know why, but I was like he could stick around in the EPL, but the high teams already have their players that they're working with, like Arsenal, Man City, of course, they're not gonna let go of anybody up front. Up front, their front three is just that's deadly. Um, and then that would cause a controversy big time, where it's like he jumps ship and he lands in Man City. Yeah, that would be a lot of Marcus Rashford shirts burning. I'm gonna tell you that.
yeah. So I don't see that happening. But West Ham
Yeah,
United, as far as a loan opportunity goes, I think that might be an ideal spot. Especially, I think I think that's where Lopetegui was. I know he got fired, or at least Lopetegui is said to get fired. So I mean, and that's another thing. Like, do you really want to go into a place where there's a lot of uncertainty? At the same time, I think that's another thing that is. Let me see. Um, yeah, because Nicholas Fulkrug. Well, I mean, he's injured, so I mean, at least that would open up somewhere where Marcus Rashford could play. That's right. Yep. Yeah, Lopetegui did get fired, so Graham Potter, I believe, now is the new manager for West Ham United. I think Edson Alvarez, like he's looking for a move out as well. I think Monaco was trying to get him out, trying to get him on loan, but West Ham actually rejected that offer. But yeah, no, I think I don't know. I think West Ham could if the Premier League is if Premier League is a destination, I think West Ham United is not a bad place to be at. I think with it now having Graham Potter now as the new manager because Lopetegui got fired could open up some a good opportunity for him. So if that was the route, if the Premier League was the route he wants to stay in the Prem, I don't think West Ham United is that bad of a place.
yeah, I
It's just that
agree.
there's a lot of uncertainty, and because do you want to go into a situation that just fired their coach? Um, so that's the other thing. But yeah, I think as far as the only thing that's kind of stopping them from getting Marcus Rashford out of Manchester United is just his salary. Like his salary is way too high. Um, which probably to a fault you could blame the front office for. That's like to give up. And I understand that Marcus Rashford, at least at that time, was at least viewed worthy enough for that kind of salary. But you know, hindsight's always 2020, right?
Yep.
So, anything you wanna say on the whole Marcus Rashford thing? Is there anything you wanna end it with?
I mean, just hope that he ends up doing what's right for him. Like if he wants to stay in Manchester United because he's that loyal, then he ends up staying, even if let's say there's a 50-50 chance that they could be like, you know what, we're gonna implement you into the team. Okay, cool. Kudos to him. If he ends up leaving, I just hope that he gets his play time. He's not even old. Like I think what, he's like 26, 27, 28.
27.
Yeah, so he's like this is where it should be like his prime where he has like experience of playing for a high tier team and also because of his play time it's like he's been able to be a clutch player and he was like when he was a bit younger he was the clutch player. He was speedy, he was fast, his instinct would kick in, so for him to play at any other team would suck as a Manchester United fan, but I just wish him the best. Like I hope if he ends up going somewhere for him to go uh to have playtime to get paid for what he couldn't do at Manchester United.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next headline is. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Candidips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canadip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. Piojo, Miguel Piojo Herrera, one of
Oh
our
man.
most beloved favorite managers here on Insert Name FC. I love this man. He can do no wrong. Look, am I biased against Mexico? Definitely. But that's the national team, not the players. Like I ever seen me praise Mexican players many times
Yep.
before.
Yep.
And I love Piojo. I would, if I ever saw that man, I'd give him the world's biggest hug. I love this man. Everything he does is just I love him. Even like the back in the day photos of him back in his playing time, man, like he's still the same level of stockiness, probably a little bit skinnier, but stocky regardless. He's a short dude. I believe he's like
Yeah.
5'4". Um,
So you can relate.
and fuck you. Um, oh, we need to really tone down with the f bombs. But uh, uh, uh. Anyways, kind of coming back to this. Yeah, Saki, and then the mullet. The mullet was like really what sold me on Piojo. I need to,
Really?
bro. Like you never seen like the young Piojo photos?
No, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like that- that's what sold you on him?
I mean,
The mullet.
it's just the image of him back in the day, man. Uh, let me see when he played in Mexico. Let me see. Yeah, bro, like that mullet is pristine, man. Yeah, dude. That's like it's very much up there. But yeah, still stocky. That's like the thing I love most about it is just this stocky dude. Um, and it was one of those where you looked at him, you're like, the minute he stops playing, he's gonna let himself go, which he did.
Fair enough.
Hey man, you know what? I don't shame on guys that do. Like, I mean, there's a lot of players that definitely once they stop playing, they just said F it. I mean, look at Wayne Rooney. Um, Wayne Rooney, Sam Nasri, uh, Adriano. I mean, Adriano's not fat, but he definitely. I don't expect him to sprint a mile. If that makes any sense.
Damn.
I don't expect him to sprint 40 yards. But have you seen Adriano? I mean, dude's living his life, man. He's
Yeah.
just chilling in Brazil, hanging out with people, dabbing them up, man. Dude, but anyways, Miguel Piojo. So Piojo, well known as a well beloved coach, especially if you're an Americanista, and then also coached Mexico from 2013 to 2015, which featured the 2014 World Cup, Copa America, and Gold Cup. Also played for Mexico, um, mostly known for like the '94 World Cup. But yes, so well loved. Obviously had the iconic moment where. Uh, I believe they scored the tying goal. It was Club America versus Cruz Azul for the Liga MX title, and they drew the game. They scored the game tying goal to send it to extra time, and then went to penalties. But there was a downpour in the game, and when they scored the tying goal, there's the image of Piojo just celebrating his. The dude's got a flow, by the way. I just need to make sure you guys know this. Dude has a flow, and he's just moving, and that's when the meme came of Super Saiyan Piojo.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so this guy played, and this guy coaches with his heart on his sleeve, and I think that's one of the things that I think I also love a lot about Piojo. Is you could see his passion throughout the match. But why am I saying all this? Well, he is now the coach of Costa Rica.
What?
Piojo El Tico.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Two things I took from that announcement. One, uh, wow, watch up, it was so tall.
One
Is
one
is
Chope. Wow. Well, yeah, I remember one Chope is a pretty tall dude.
bro, I mean, and it's funny because it's not that long ago that he was playing for Costa Rica. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, so once he retired, and then he was at one point coach of Costa Rica, but
yeah,
he didn't want to be there. But he's still with the Costa Rican national team. Um, Costa Rica, it's kind of an intriguing thing with Costa Rica right now because at least at one point was viewed as I would say the strongest Central American team, like
yeah.
the best
It
Central
was it
American team.
was the best Central America team. I think it was like maybe in 2000 and
It was a run.
maybe like 2002 for from either from 99 to 2002, 2002 to like 2006. And then I think it slowly started falling off when it was like
2014, they were
the
still pretty.
2010 the 2010 2014 because
I
that,
think
no
after
no you
2014,
know
I feel
what no let me take it back maybe after 2014 they went down because that's when US started going up a bit. Mexico was going up.
well, no,
um
USA didn't make the World Cup. Remember that?
no, I know, but that's what I'm saying, they were going up a bit, like they were going just a little bit, working on their squads and stuff, like how that to the what they have now. And then Mexico at the time, you had like a younger HH, you had Andres Guardado, you had Miguel Ayun, you had pretty decent fucking squad. Like, and even if they were quote unquote older, they would still move, you know.
I
But then
mean,
you had Costa
Miguel
Rica,
Layun,
who,
you could literally put that guy anywhere on the field.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then no, and the thing is like, what you call it? Um, in Costa Rica, the main player we would always know is Juan Chope. Juan Chope. That was always the one we would always know because he was always the dangerous dude there. And then I think that's what once I think what year did he retire? What year did he leave?
well, he definitely wasn't on the 2014 team. I don't
No, I know he wasn't. Yeah.
2010.
Maybe 2010 was the last one. Korea, Japan, no?
No,
No, that was
2010,
22.
2010, 2010 was
2010 was,
2010 was South Africa.
yeah,
It might have been 2006 because 2006 was Germany and
yeah,
Costa Rica was there. I mean, Costa Rica is always like so when it came to the US, it was always USA, Mexico, and Costa Rica. Canada wasn't even in the conversation.
yeah.
Um,
Canada wasn't even part of it.
so it was Costa Rica, and then whatever if that fourth place team could either beat New Zealand or they couldn't. Um, but it was usually either well Honduras at that time was starting to have its kind of rise and I don't know what's going on with them now but essentially the three big teams from CONCACAF at least back around that time was USA. Well, I'll actually put it in a proper order. It was Mexico because no one was beating them at the time. USA and then Costa Rica. And if you wanted to be cheeky, you could flip USA and Costa Rica because Costa Rica was a pretty tough opponent
Yeah,
at that time. And
they
then
were.
obviously, then Keylor Navas comes into the picture, kept them pretty. And I think that team had a really good team because they also had, I believe, Ruiz was Ruiz, yeah,
No, no, is Ruiz?
Ruiz because he was
Uh,
the captain of. Let me see. They pull up 2014 Costa Rica because that's essentially the last like good team. The last good roster from Costa Rica. Which it won't let me pull that out of. But yeah, 2014 Costa Rica, which had uh, okay, that's not helping. But Keylor Navas, Ruiz. I know Ruiz was. I believe it was Ruiz. Um, yeah, this was not helpful. Dang it. Let me see. 2014 Costa Rica roster. I don't know. Costa Rica squad. Okay, let's see. You're not giving me the squad, man. Okay. At 2014, at the time, was Keylor Navas, who played for Levante. Let me see who else was a good player. Oscar Duarte, he was pretty good at that time.
Duarte, yeah, he was good too.
Joel Campbell. Joel
Oh,
Campbell.
how could we forget Joel Campbell? I forgot he was actually.
Brian Ruiz. At that time, he played for
Oh,
PSV.
okay.
Let me see anybody else worth noting. Um, No, that's basically it. But yeah, still that core of player, those three stars essentially, plus a very strong core of players make, and that 2014 Costa Rica team, that team went very impressively far. So I think, yeah, at that time Costa Rica was viewed as a very good dark horse team, maybe a team that could eventually win a Gold Cup, and then the thing that happened is just they got old and they didn't have any young Costa Rican players to come in and to step up and take those roles once those players. Because I mean, Keylor Navas is essentially retired from Costa Rica, so he's not playing for Costa
Yeah.
Rica anymore. So yeah, so that's pretty much this is a complete. I don't want to say completely new, but it is essentially like there's no one from that time period anymore for Costa Rica now. So and they're still trying to find that now. Do they have players? Yes, because some interesting players to mention. We got Jalen Mitchell, 20 years old, center back from Feyenoord. I think that's an interesting player to keep an eye on.
Mm.
Manfred Ugalde, I think very interesting player. Currently plays at Spartak Moscow, but a lot of people have some intrigue from him. And Warren Madrigal, 22 years old, and plays for Valencia, which take it with a grain of salt. But I think I believe right now he's currently injured. So they have some players, and there's still like a good mix of younger players. Will we see them play eventually? I hope so. Can Piojo get the best out of them? I'm not entirely sure.
Mm.
It's not like look, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Piojo is like the greatest coach of all time, but
But
but I think he's infectious.
yeah.
If that makes sense. Like I said, he coaches with his heart on his sleeve, and like the players feed off of that. I think that's what made Mexico so good, especially 2014 Mexico. That 2014 Mexico team, they got robbed. This is the only time you're gonna hear me say this. But they
That's
got
the only
robbed.
time.
They got robbed big time by Arjen Robben. Uh, am I saying they're gonna win the World Cup that year? No, but it's I feel so bad for Mexico because that stupid curse. Because they can if no one knows what the curse is, it's the what's it called? El quinto partido,
El quinto partido?
the fifth game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I believe that's the curse. I it's because obviously they do well in the group stages. Um, and once for people that know about a certain video clip that pissed off a lot of people, um, I will retract the disrespect for Mexico comment. I'll retract that.
Mm.
Um, maybe not currently this Mexico players maybe it doesn't get the same it's not the same like wow factor from like the previous Mexico players, but still. I retract my statement about that one, at least. But um, what am I trying to say? Oh, the Mexican national team curse. Like, so Mexico has the reason why there's at least a respect for what besides the fact that Mexico is a football country, a football nation. It's also the fact that like they've proven to beat a world beater.
Yep.
You know, like they've been able to somehow beat Brazil. Um, maybe not Argentina, but they can beat Brazil. They've been able to go toe to toe with, and I mean, you know, they started the World Cup. That 2014 World Cup was it 20, no 2018. The 2018 World Cup. That Mexico team beat Germany. Mind you, we
Yeah,
didn't
that's true.
realize the flaws that German team was going to have, but at that point, everyone thought Germany was going to win the World Cup again. They were going to go back to back in 2018, right? And
Yep.
Mexico goes in and beats them. And I would say handedly because that Chucky Lozano goal was this. It looked like he was playing against like a U14 side. Um, yeah, like I mean, Mexico has proven to be able to beat world beaters. So I like I said, I retract my statement about there's a disrespect for Mexican players. There is some sort of level, some sort of like hesitance with Mexican players, at least, and it's not because of Mexico player in general. It's just the fact that for some reason Liga MX doesn't let their players go to Europe for some weird reason. But that's another conversation for another day. Um, but there's a curse with Mexico. You know, and I believe it's yeah, curse of the fifth game. El quinto partido. So that
Hmm.
is like one of the, and it's something that has been said many times. It's just for some reason Mexico cannot get past that fifth game, and and weirdly enough, if they would have been able to, depending on how that result would have happened against the Netherlands, they could have probably have passed, finally broke the curse of the fifth game. Um, and so that was my point, Edward. But anyways, coming back to Piojo, I think
Hmm.
Piojo can be infectious. I think I'm not sitting here telling you that this guy's like a tactician, but I think being, and I know Edward said his whole thing about a player's coach, but I think Piojo is kind of that good combination of being firm, but also being really relatable to the players. And obviously, the fact that he used to play does help for his favor. But um, yeah, I think sometimes a player's coach is a good place. And I think for Costa Rica, maybe they just need to get loose. Maybe they just need to relax and start falling in love with the game again. And I think a guy like Piojo, who loves his game, is the right guy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, it just went quiet, and I was like, can you hear me? But um, I would say yes. Piojo has had a very successful career, managing a lot of good teams. I mean, mind you, when he was managing America, it was everybody was excited about that, and then when he managed Mexico, everybody was completely head over heels. And he had a successful stint with Mexico with the national team. Um, just I mean, you can't just keep it up all the time. You can't do that shit for years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not even the great, the fucking Low. What's the dude Germany's national
Joachim
coach?
Low.
Joachim Low. I can't say that. I couldn't say it. That's why I was like, so Low. He was their coach for years, World Cup champion and everything. And
And
then
it goes all the way
had
back to
us,
last time I remember him from 2002.
yeah, from him scratching his balls and smelling, right?
No, that's no 2002.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, my
That
bad.
no, the him scratching his balls and ass. I believe that was when was that? I think that was. I don't think that was 2018. I think it was a Euro actually.
Oh, okay. Well, either way. But that's what I'm saying. Like he's had successful runs and so did Piojo. Piojo had a successful run with Mexico. I mean,
Oh no no no
but
no. He wasn't coaching 2002. Jurgen Klinsmann coached 2002, the 2002 team.
but still, like I'm talking about like but
Yeah, I mean we're
Jurgen
at this
Low.
point it's a moot point. But
Yeah.
anyways,
No, but still, I'm saying like the way that he coached Piojo, I
hmm
mean, that was exactly what Mexico needed.
yeah,
As much as we were upset about it, because I was like, bro, I was like, look how dirty they're playing. Look at it. Like, I mean, that's a tactic. Like, if they're losing, take out their best player whenever it would be like against the US. Mind you, at the time, US wasn't that great at that either. They had their problems too. But it was always like 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Like everybody would always be talking about it. But yeah, Piojo did bring out good talent into Mexico, like into the national team, and then he managed to be able to, uh, I think he did a good job. Like basically as a head coach for a national team. So him being Costa Rica's coach, that's pretty cool. Like Costa Rica, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to shape them up. Um, just we'll just have to wait and see, to be honest. We just have to wait and see on this. But honestly, I think it's a good thing. And it's funny enough because I was gonna say I was like, if um US needed a coach and Piojo was up for grabs, I would say let's see if we can grab Piojo.
that would be hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be hilarious. I don't think that would happen,
I know that's what I'm saying. I was like, just try it, just go for just for shit and giggles, see if you can get him.
but I mean, I'm sure they're happy
But
with Pochettino.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I'm intrigued. They're we'll be seeing Costa Rica, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, Piojo taking the Costa Rican national team job, I think is very interesting, and I can't wait for it. But all right, so I completely forgot about this part with Edward. We kind of just got lost in the conversation, and it literally just slipped past me in the headline discussion. But um, so this past week we had the MLS Media Day, which is where key players and the general managers and coaches come and do some media stuff for MLS, and they had some press conferences and. Uh, there's a topic that has been going around. Now, this has been going on for quite some time. At least this rumor has been circulating of MLS switching to a fall spring schedule. So, for if you guys aren't familiar with how MLS does their seasons, they normally start their season late February and then finish it in December. So they are one of the few, if it maybe only league that plays through the summer. Um, and obviously they're also one of the few leagues that will start in start in February versus everybody else starting usually like late August and then go all the way till May. And but this has been kind of one of the things that MLS has been a little bit different. Um, as far as the reasoning behind this one, I really can't tell. Well, the there is some logic behind it. I think weather comes into play just because obviously it does get pretty cold in some regions of the US. But I think the other thing was just like I don't know. I think that MLS was just trying to avoid as much NFL, but it's kind of hard to avoid the NFL, especially come August when NFL kicks off. So I don't know. I think the whole worriness about trying to compete with the NFL, like you're just maybe there's a day where MLS can say they can compete with the NFL, but right now it's not that time. But I think there's a lot of positives for switching to a fall spring schedule. Because one, this does open up international play. One of the biggest gripes, and I know I've never actually, my biggest gripe is obviously the MLS Super Draft when it comes to MLS, but one of the few gripes that I do have is the scheduling for the MLS because it is so kind of annoying to watch international tournaments, whether it's Gold Cup, Copa America, World Cup, anything of that nature that happens during the summer. It's frustrating to watch that also the MLS teams are playing within during those tournaments because you know as shocking as this may seem, there is World Cup players that do play in the World Cup that come out of MLS. I know, shocking, but um, I think it's kind of annoying to see that when they're playing overseas, which is great. That's what it's awesome to see these players play representing MLS go and play for their national teams. But the thing that's kind of frustrating is, well, more often than not, if that player is playing for the national team, they're kind of a crucial, at least an essential player for that MLS team, and to see them having to play without their best player can be hindering. So the summer does get rough, especially when those international tournaments come to play. So I think the switch to a fall spring would would be so much better. So I do agree with it as well. But I wasn't the only one, and not many, and not only the MLS fans that there's some MLS fans. Well, most MLS fans do agree to this, but there's also coaches and general managers that feel the same way. A lot of things that were spoken positively of the MLS switching to this schedule came up. Many stating the benefits of not overpaying for a player in January. That was actually something that was mentioned. And at first I didn't really think much of it, but when it was brought up, it does make sense for a lot of especially if you're trying to go after a player that you hope that's going to be impactful to that MLS club. Let's, for instance, for example, when the Houston Dynamo were negotiating with HH. So obviously, he wasn't signed on January. He came in the summer, but and so when they signed when so Acha didn't go through a preseason, didn't go through preseason workouts, didn't get to, you know, get to know the team, you know, in any shape or form. He, came in the summer, they're in the middle of the season, and he has to just completing his season with Atletico Madrid and having to go right back into it. So it can be annoying. Like it just straight up, it can be annoying, especially for a player that has just gone through a season, and having to now continue playing. So and I know that we're talking about that's a little bit different, but I think and I think that was a terrible example. But I think the other thing is obviously you're going after a player that right now is in the middle of their season to get them to come and start getting ready for a preseason with this MLS team. And those teams in Europe, they probably are like, well, we need this player right now, and I'm not gonna just let him go, all willy-nilly just now. So you're gonna have to cough up a little bit more money. And whereas in the summer, that's where most teams in Europe are already doing their preparation for potential summer transfers, and maybe they look at that player like, well, we can replace that player, we can let them go, and maybe a lower transfer fee comes into play. So I think that does change, like things change because obviously when you're in the January transfer window, you're just looking to bring in a player maybe to, a few tinker. You're not going and buying a whole much mess of players. You're just buying one or two guys that maybe you need, maybe a missing piece to your that's what's something that's left for that team, but it's never gonna be like this massive. You're not gonna sign like sorry, you're not gonna sign like 8 players or anything like that. Which not saying that happens in the summer transfer window, but you're not looking to sign like 5 players. You're looking to sign 1 or 2 players. And so I think that is it has a lot of accuracy to it. So I never really thought about the fact that many of these MLS teams have to overpay in maybe pay a little more in the January transfer window versus being able to just maybe pay a little bit lower, uh pay a lower price in the summer. So I think but I also think that it is true that especially for like the guys that do come in from the summer, they don't get much of a break, right? Like they come in, maybe they're off 1 or 2 games, but they're still training with the team and getting to know the players. And that's the other thing too. Like you're having to come in and get to know a full team. And I know that kind of happens with a player in Europe going to the January transfer window who was literally just playing half a season with this one team, goes to his brand new team and now has to get to know everybody. And I know that that's the thing, but I think for MLS, but the thing that's different is obviously this player is already in some sort of form. So well, depending on what's the scenario, but they're coming into some form, and so I think it's actually an interesting thought, and I think that it does impact that. So I think a player being able to go through a full preseason, a full it does benefit, and I think that switching to the fall spring, that summertime is just focused on getting acquiring new players, and when it comes time to start getting ready and checking in for the new season, everybody's starting in the same place. So I think it does work out also in that aspect. And some of the people that were speaking on media, they also mentioned, summertime, it gets pretty hot. Especially if you're talking about Texas, the Texas summer heats it's pretty rough. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like the Dynamo have already like a terrible fan attendance when it comes to their matches, but one of the big complaints for the Dynamo is the heat, like how hot it is during the summer. So it's not a dome. It's an open stadium. So you're in the elements, and so the heat does get pretty bad. I mean, I think the club has done as best as they can. They brought in fans to help cool fans off. That's kind of overused words, but yeah, they brought fans to help cool down the stadium. They installed mesh seating for the stands for to just so that way you're not sitting on a hot piece of plastic. It's a breathable material, so it's a little bit easier to sit on. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's still, at least for fans, it's rough. But I mean, you got to play in those elements. So you're especially in Houston where you're talking about even at night, it's still going to be in the 90s and 80s. Mixing with that humidity, it does get pretty rough. And so I think, and obviously, that's when during the summertime, that's when you see those water breaks that happen usually around the 30th minute. So I think I would, and I think everybody would say, I mean, even Pat Onstad of the Houston Dynamo, he said it. Like he's like, you know, right now here in Houston, it's like just for I'm just gonna use for today's weather. The lows were like 48 degrees and the highs was like 60 degrees, which I mean, like I said, to someone that's from a colder state or a colder country, that's shorts weather, right? That's a nice day for you guys. For Houston, that for people from Houston, from Texas, or for me, for example, I'm from Central, my family's from Central America. We're not fond of this kind of weather, so maybe we over exaggerate with the clothing that we wear to someone that's from the north, but um, we're not used to that kind of weather. But Pat Onset, and I agree to it. I would much rather go to a game that's cold because all I have to do is just wear, you know, a hoodie and stuff like that. And I mean for the and Pat Noonan even spoke about it versus the cold weather argument. Um, Pat Noonan, who's the coach for FC Cincinnati, he said it was much harder to get ready for a game that was in high humidity and in 100-degree weather. It was a lot tougher to keep a sort of tempo. Team players would get burnt out very quickly versus the cold weather where, yes, it's freezing, but once you're warmed up, the tempo is still pretty good versus having the summer. So it'd be like if you had to pick the lesser of two evils, most of the coaches, I'm not saying all the coaches and general managers all picked the cold weather, but most did say that the cold weather was easier versus the summer. And I understand that like there's places in the US that get pretty cold and I mean get very like and snow becomes a factor, but I feel like that's also a thing that happens in Europe as well. But the heat is just unbearable. So I think if I had to choose, and like I said, I'm not from Minnesota, so I can't tell you like what's it like to play in Minnesota. But if I had to choose, I would much rather play in the cold. And I mean, for Houston, cold it's cold is not cold to someone from Minnesota. But I would much rather play in the cold versus the heat, the high heat with the humidity, and it's just not pleasant. So I can only imagine for a player who has to run for 90 plus minutes, having to deal with the heat, probably having to drink a lot of water, drink a lot of electrolytes, um, cramps being a thing, all that takes its toll, and having to do that from May, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, for people from Texas, I mean, it starts in April, in April till August, like that. That's you're dealing with that. So, but it gets worse come, the summertime. So June, July, that's when it's at its peak. Like you're seeing 120-degree weather. So, I mean, when you put it like that, I would gladly take a 40-degree day over a 120-degree day. But that's just me. But apparently, many feel that way. I know that not everybody is in agreement with this, and I think the weather is always going to be the factor. I think if that is a big concern, maybe those northern teams would probably not see many home games, at least in the. And I'm not saying like all the northern teams has to like can't have a home game during the winter. I'm just saying that maybe they'll have fewer home matches during the wintertime just to avoid any freezing temperatures, like we're talking about like 0 and -20 degree weather. If that is a thing, but I'm sure that there'll be a plan in place, and I'm sure there's ways to warm at least the pitch. Obviously the stands is one thing, but I mean, I think making sure because the players are gonna have to go out there and still in shorts and I mean maybe a long and having to wear a long sleeve underneath, but and gloves, but like aside from that, they're not wearing much else. But so yeah. I said it when they announced this rumor that I'm all for it. I think that this is the right way to go. Um, and I hope it does do. I hope they do make the switch because I think look, at some point you want people to take this league seriously. And if you're it's kind of hard to sell this league, especially when it goes so much against the grain to the football fans. And I'm obviously talking about European football fans. Like it's and I mean and I know people like I think the schedule isn't necessarily the worst thing, but I think if it falls in line with the rest of the world, it's not too bad. I think it works out in their favor, especially when you're talking about transfers and international play. But I think my biggest, I still say the playoffs is still going to be very much a thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with the playoffs because once again, like I said plenty of times, MLS has a weird job right now because it's to try to have a respectable league for the football fans, but also be able to have it make sense to Americans. And we're not talking about the Americans that love this sport, that love this game. I'm talking about the Americans that don't really like soccer or football too much. And they don't see the point of the game. They don't see the logic behind the game. They don't, a lot of Americans don't understand why how a tie could be a good thing. Um, and sometimes it's not a good thing, but and so like having it to be just a regular season and you're going to lose a lot of Americans because you're like, wait, you mean the team that finishes in first? Which common sense tells you if you're able to be the best team throughout the season, you should be noted as the champion. And I get that. But obviously, in American sports, every league has a playoff, and so I think for Americans, it makes so much sense to have a playoff. So I'm perfectly fine with a playoff format. Hell, Liga MX does it as well. So I don't. It's not like they're the only league that has a playoff format. So but that's the thing though. That's like the line, the kind of the dance that MLS has, where you want to be as proper as you can be to football, but at the same time, you got to find things to gain American fanship. And to do that, you gotta be able to find a good in between. And I think that MLS has found a good in between so far. I mean, it's not perfect. It can get better. Um, and I think that this would be essentially kind of a good start. Hopefully, we start seeing more changes come in the way. Uh, because like I said, I want to see this league get better. Um, and be and not. I don't want to say respected. I'm at this point. I'm tired of using that word respect. Um, just appreciate it. I think is that's what I just want to see. So I do think that the MLS schedule change could be beneficial to the MLS in that aspect. But all right, so now that I said that, now we'll segue over to Camp Cupcake.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
All right, the final headline, and we're going to talk about a specific U.S. soccer camp, and it's the iconic January camp, which has been referred to as Camp Cupcake.
I'm sorry?
Camp Cupcake.
Camp Cupcake.
And there's a reason why they call it Camp Cupcake, because this is not an international break, a FIFA sanctioned international break at least. So it doesn't fall under FIFA regulations. This is just and you guys are probably wondering, if this doesn't fall with FIFA regulations, then why are we doing it? It's a fair question, that person I say, because the reason why is because U.S. Soccer has a TV contract obligation, and in that contract they are supposed to give them international friendly. Well, not necessarily international. Yeah, well, two international friendlies in January. So because of that, U.S. Soccer has to find some countries that are willing to play them in a friendly, and obviously, no, since it's not a FIFA sanctioned international break, no club from any no club has an obligation to giving them letting their players go and serve their international call up. And so,
Mm.
but and like, all right, there is some benefits to Camp Cupcake. I'm not gonna say that it's completely a waste of time, because of Camp Cupcake, Jurgen Klinsmann discovered Jeff Cameron, and which Jeff Cameron did end up playing in the 2014 FIFA World Cup. So, and was actually a crucial part of U.S. in the 2014 FIFA World Cup. So, there is those opportunities where players that maybe wasn't in the eyesight of certain coaches, gets certain recognition. So I think that there is a benefit to Camp Cupcake to some extent. Would I be sad if we got rid of Camp Cupcake? No, but it does open up some possibilities for the U.S. national team. Which, if we're gonna be honest, Edward,
Mhm.
we know who our starting lineup is. We just don't know about the depth.
Right.
So I think for Camp Cupcake, at least for this instance, it works out. Uh, it works out in the favor of the U.S. men's national team. Now, who are the U.S. playing in this international break? Well, January 18th, they'll be playing Venezuela in
Did you say January 10th or January 10th?
18th.
Okay. I don't know why, but it sounded like you said January 18th on my end.
All right.
But go ahead, sorry.
In January 18th, they'll be playing against Venezuela in Miami, Florida. And January 22nd, they'll be playing against Miguel Piojo and Costa Rica in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Once again, this isn't a FIFA sanctioned international break, so don't expect to see, Rodon, or don't expect to see Ugalde in these matches. It's probably going to be like a B team or a C team of some of these countries. So once again, take it with a grain of salt from this, because it could be a waste of time. So once again, to understand this camp features MLS players. It's gonna be, if anything, if not most, all MLS players.
Hmm.
And so just to understand that. All right. So the roster for Camp Cupcake is the goalkeepers. We got Drake Callender from Inter Miami, Matt Freese from New York City FC, Patrick Schulte from Columbus Crew, and Zach Steffen of the Colorado Rapids.
Okay.
Look, you guys can't pay me to like Drake Callender. You really can't. I look. I know what's going on with Inter Miami is great, but he's not the reason. Um, and I believe actually Inter Miami is actually going after a goalkeeper. I don't know if they signed him or not, but they're going after a goalkeeper. So clearly Drake Calendar's days are coming short. So yeah, Drake Callender, Matt Freese, who has done pretty well for New York City FC. So I'm actually intrigued to see how he does. Patrick Schulte, it seems more and more like he's the next guy for U.S. soccer. I
Hmm.
think I think that there's a lot of positive for Patrick Schulte. I think obviously he plays regularly for Columbus Crew. Would I like to see how he fares in Europe? I do. But Patrick Schulte seems more and more like he's going to be the next guy, which doesn't seem like that far off, because Matt Turner doesn't really get much playing time over at Crystal Palace. And And Ethan Horvath, I don't even know if he's playing anywhere. So, yeah, the door is wide open for the goalkeeper position, if you ask me. And then you have Zach Steffen that plays for the Colorado Rapids now. Could he get a bounce back? Maybe. Do I believe it? No. Um, I think at this point, it's just his opportunity has passed, and I don't think. And maybe, like I said, maybe he's not old. He's like 30 years old, but I mean, he is 30 years old. But I just don't know. When you have Patrick Schulte, people still believing in Gaga Slonina, and I believe Barcelona has a player named Diego Cochen, who is American and has been called up by the U.S. men's national team. Hasn't played a match yet, but still, I think, I like I said, I think Zach Steffen's days are long past him, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha.
So, who do I want to see for the U.S. from the goalkeeper position? Patrick Schulte. That's who I want to see. I want to see him play. I want to see how he does as far as having command in the back line and how he once again take a game with a grain of salt with these games. Obviously, you're not playing against anybody's A team. It's not the Venezuela that we've seen recently. It's not that team. And Matt Freese, I'm a little bit intrigued by Matt Freese, but I just want to see Patrick Schulte. If I don't see Patrick Schulte in the starting lineup, I'm probably not going to watch the game. Which I'm lying. I'm clearly going to watch the game. It's probably just going to be on my tablet, and I'm just going to, watch something else.
Yeah, right.
But anyways, all right, defenders. We got Max Arfsten from Columbus Crew, George Campbell from Montreal, DeJuan Jones from the Columbus Crew, Shaq Moore from FC Dallas, just signed to FC Dallas, by the way, Jillian Neal from Montreal, Tim Ream of Charlotte FC, Miles Robinson of FC Cincinnati, John Tolkien of New York Red Bulls, and Walker Zimmerman of Nashville SC. No offense to Tim Ream, no offense to Miles Robinson, and no offense to Walker Zimmerman, but we need to stop calling these guys up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tim Ream. I love you. I actually do. You made me feel proud of being in my 30s. But I just don't think we need to be calling you up anymore. We might see you in the Gold
Damn.
Cup. We might be seeing you in the Gold Cup, but you're not going to be part of the World Cup team. Like
Damn.
he's not going to be on the team. He's going to be like 36. And at this point, Miles Robinson. There was a time where I was excited for him, but now I don't. He hasn't been the same player since his injury. So yeah, I'm kind of done with Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman. I think we got all that we can from him at this point. As far as anybody else, like Jalen Neal, I'm excited for him. He's a promising player. He actually just moved it from the LA Galaxy to Montreal, so I definitely want to see. I'm kind of intrigued by him. I hope to see him play a little bit. Shaq Moore, I have no idea why he's here. I feel like we could have got another player instead of him in this call up as well. John Tolkien, I think he's in that combination of I don't know if he's good or like I'm not entirely sure if he's good. That's where I'm at with John Tolkien
That's
now.
where you're okay.
Like I don't think he's bad, but is he good? is the next question. So that's where I'm at.
Right, gotcha.
Sounds mean, but that's really how I feel. And so the midfielders we got. So anybody that I really want to see, like I said, John Tolkien, I'm interested to see just because I want to figure him out a little bit more, and Jalen Neal. Jalen Neal is probably the one that I want to have. I'll have my eyes glued on just to pause, just to see how he plays because I want to see how he does because, like I said, center back position, it's not that deep. It's not that deep a position for. I mean, literally, I just said I don't want to see Tim Ream, Miles Robinson, and Walker Zimmerman anymore. We're not that deep in that position. So, and as far as the guys we do have, like Cameron Carter-Vickers, like Chris Richards, Mark McKenzie, that's three guys. I literally just listed three guys. Like, yeah, we need the center back position to be a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
All right, midfielders we got Benjamin Cramachi from Inter Miami. Emeka Nelly from Real Salt Lake, Diego Luna from Real Salt Lake, and Jack McGlynn from the Philadelphia Union. You best believe I'm going to have my eyes on Diego Luna. No Diddy. Because this kid got robbed from the Olympic roster. He should have been on that roster. Does he make? Would he improve the odds for the U.S. team in the Olympics? No, but he should have been on that roster. The kid's a dog. I like watching him play. I shame everybody in the state of Texas that nobody signed him while he was playing for El Paso, and we let that kid just go over to Salt Lake City, Utah, instead of playing for either FC Dallas, FC Austin, or the Houston Dynamo. That's terrible scouting, by the way. So yeah, that kid is really good. I'm actually going to be intrigued to see how he does with this call up. I hope to see him play. Benjamin Cramachi is another guy that I kind of want to see more from. Obviously, if there's one guy that benefited so much from having Messi on his being able to
Oh
listen to
yeah,
Messi is this kid. So I
yeah.
mean, the kid's good. I actually do enjoy watching him play. So no Diddy. Um, all right, forwards. We got the two players. Like I said, Diego Luna and Benjamin Karachi. Forwards, we got Patrick Aguiman from Charlotte FC, Caden Clark from Montreal, Jesus Ferreira, the Pirate of the Caribbean from FC. Well, not FC Dallas anymore. Seattle Sounders. So
Seattle Sounders.
Seattle Sounder, Jesus Ferreira. Once again, Pirate of the Caribbean. Brian Gutierrez of Chicago Fire. Matko Meljevic, who is currently not under contract with anybody. And Indiana Vasilev from St. Louis City. And Brian White of the Vancouver Whitecaps. From this list, Caden Clark, I'm a little bit intrigued by him. I kind of want to see him go back to the hype that he had. If you guys don't remember, he played for the New York Red Bulls when he first got called up. He is a graduate of the Barcelona Academy in Arizona. Uh, but yeah, then played for New York Red Bulls, then got signed by RB Leipzig. Didn't pan out there, so then he went to Minnesota United. Something happened that in the middle of that season, and so he got traded to Montreal. I don't know. I think it's worth giving him a look. I think he's still young. I think he can still grow to be something. Um, Also, why is Jesus Ferreira on this roster? Um, he's just one of those players where I think we got all that we can get from him. No offense, just
Yeah.
this is what it is. Brian Gutierrez, I'm actually really intrigued by this player. He was probably one of the few bright spots of Chicago Fire.
Oh,
So the kid can play. That kid, honestly, Edward, I would tell you you might want to keep an eye on this kid. Um,
okay.
I
So
think it's also
basically, I have to watch the Chicago Fire games, right?
or watch these two games that the U.S. are playing.
Okay.
Um, well, Brian Gutierrez, I think this is a smart move for U.S. to go to bring him up right now because if you can call him up and cap tie him, I think it's a good move because he obviously Mexico is also another place that he could be playing for. So I think Guti's a good call. I hope to see him play. Um, so yeah, that's all I really want to talk about from the forwards as far as this call up goes. Um, if all right, so for right now, uh, Indian Vasilev, Matko Milovic, Brian Gutierrez, Patrick Akiyoman, Miki Anelli, George Campbell, and Max Arfsten are all doing their first call up with the U.S. men's national team. So they are all in an opportunity to be cap tied. What does that mean? That means if they play on the field, they are now tied to the U.S. men's national team, which then that means they would have to do the one-time switch to switch over to another national team if they were to choose to. So I just wanted to
Mm,
point that out. Just wanted to point that out. That's strategy. One of the strategies that you can use in Camp Cupcake, which
yeah.
I am not against. Now I do want to speak on this one player, Edward, just because I don't know if you've heard about this, but Matko Miljevic,
Much of it.
he's got some baggage, man. Like I mentioned, he's not attached to a club right now.
Hmm.
um, so he at one point did play for Montreal. He actually got banned from Canada for spitting and punching an opponent in a Quebec soccer league, an amateur soccer league, by the way. Why am I pointing that out? Well, he at that time he was still under contract by Montreal. So if you didn't ever, I don't know if you know the story. So while he was playing for Montreal, he was pretty annoyed that he wasn't getting much playing time. So his friend told him, "Hey, come over to this amateur league, and so you can play and get some money out of it." he had to use a fake name to play in this league because why? Because he's already under contract to an MLS team. So that would be, I believe that's what's that called? Uh, and I mean, he's not playing with a competitor, but conflicting interest, right? I think that's what it is. The conflicting interest because he already plays professionally. I think that's the right term. But so while playing in this amateur league, he ends up getting in trouble. He spit on an opponent and punched him in the face, um, which caused him to get banned by the league. And because of that, he ended up getting his contract terminated from Montreal, which the reason was for engaging in conduct detrimental to the league and violating his standard player agreement. Because one, shouldn't be playing in another league, and two, obviously clearly made a bad name for the league, bad reflection on the league for having a player that's spitting on players and punching them. So, so where do you go, right? Where do you go? Where does this guy go? Well, he's Argentine. He's an Argentinian, so I don't know if obviously you didn't know that, Edward. He
Mhm.
was playing for Newell's Old Boys,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
and which if nobody knows, that's Messi's old club.
Yeah.
Um, he was released from them for behavior reasons. I'm assuming a guy that's known for punching and spitting on people probably might go ahead and punch and spit on more people. Uh, clearly, he's a hothead.
Yeah.
For some reason, he's getting called up for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, maybe he's the next Onyewu. Remember Onyewu would always be a hothead.
Man, I don't know. I don't know what Pochettino was thinking about this. I think he saw Argentina and was just like, well, he's got to be good. He's my countryman. It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. But yeah, like I said, man, Camp Cupcake can do a lot of things. It could, like I said, give these guys minutes that an opportunity to mesh with the U.S. men's national team, probably get an idea of their culture, maybe feel this is where they want to continue with, especially if you're like a Brian Gutierrez, who maybe if he plays, maybe he's like, I like this direction with the U.S. team, or maybe he's like, this is a dumpster fire. Let me go play for Mexico. Then it's a possibility. I'm not taking it out of the realm. Um, so the thing is with me for Camp Cupcake, I would like it, and I'm not. This isn't like an original thought. It actually came from Filippo of Tactical Manager, but it would be great if it was just a U23 roster essentially.
Okay.
Because like I mean, to bring in a lot of young players, especially guys that maybe because you'll find something from this camp, right? Like I mean, you're gonna go. I mean, at this point, goalkeeper is a very wide open position for the U.S. men's national team. Like I think it's still to proven differently. It's Matt Turner, but I mean, someone can easily jump over him. I don't think his job is as safe as people think it is. Um, we need to figure out about that center back position. Do we have more center backs? We need to figure out an extra fullback, right? Because hopefully once Sergino Dest is healthy, you know, him and Anthony Robinson, who was awarded U.S. Player of the Year, by the way, uh, along with wow, I'm trying to blank on the other center back. On the other right back. He plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Oh,
Oh,
wow, I hate myself.
yeah. We're great podcasting, bro.
Great
Let's see.
podcasting.
Mönchengladbach, right?
Yeah. Um. Wow, they gave me Joe Scally.
Joe Scally.
Joe Scally.
Okay.
So the U.S. definitely needs a little bit more depth when it comes to the fullback position as well, center back position. I think midfield they're actually fairly decent in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean forwards once again, you know who your forwards are.
Yep.
Maybe the nine position's a question mark, but I mean aside from that, everybody kind of like I said, the starting lineup. There's not much questions behind it, but the big question mark is the depth. Who's going to be on that bench? Who is the guys we can rely on, to come in crucial moments to change the game? And I think that this is what Camp Cupcake can provide. At least help us find players that we haven't seen before. And I think that's what the camp should be used for. I think we've seen all that we need to see from Tim Ream and Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman. Um, I don't know what Matko Miljevic has, but I'm guessing just because he's available, you know. But there's certain names that I kind of want to see more of. There's certain names that I'm intrigued by, but I feel like a U23 roster, maybe sprinkle in some older players, but like not too many, would make this camp make more sense to me because and I get it also, US Soccer made a contract, has an obligation to provide two friendlies in this time of the year. But yeah, I don't know. Edward, how do you feel about Camp Cupcake? Do you feel like we should get rid of it, or what are you thinking here?
Well, I don't know. Hmm. S-
Great podcasting.
Yeah, right. Great podcasting. I'm just, mm,
He's bewildered.
yeah, I'm baffled. That's what I am.
I think I just
Uh,
told you everything about Matko, and you're just like, damn, that's a
yeah.
thing.
I was like, like now you got me thinking in like overdrive. Basically, that's what's going on.
It's like, let me go to
Uh,
this amateur league right now,
yeah, that's why I'm like,
bro. Like, do they? I guess since it is amateur league, they don't really necessarily need too much of your information. It was
I
just
mean,
fun.
I guess, yeah. But no, it's just, hmm.
Well, I
Can
mean,
I use the skip your turn?
yeah, that's fine.
Because
That's
it's
fine.
just some
I mean, do you see any value in Camp Cupcake, just in general? Like, if do you see any values to Camp Cupcake, or could this been just this one time where I mean, FIFA doesn't recognize this. I just
Yeah.
want you to point that out. Um, so like I said, like even though do you see any value to this, or do you think that um this could honestly not be a thing, and maybe U.S. Soccer needs to get fix that contract?
I think they just need to fix they need to fix the contract. They need to fix the contract. That's what they do. That's what they need to do.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but I like I said, if I think that there could be a purpose to Camp Cupcake, but if it's being used for this, the roster that I mentioned, I only mentioned like six. I think I only mentioned like eight guys that I
Yeah,
actually
yeah, just a
that
couple. Just a few.
that I'm interested in seeing. The rest I can. The rest I no, I think it's just six. Well, seven. I guess seven if you include Patrick Schulte. So yeah, there's literally like not that many guys here that I care about. Pause. Um, that I think it is. I need dude at my job, bro. They keep saying no Diddy and pause so much that I'm now starting to say it. Um,
I saw I was
huh?
like, I've never
Well,
heard
okay,
you.
because so for people that don't know, I work at an irrigation an irrigation supplier, and so we work with a lot of pipe. So that's all I gotta say.
Wow.
That's all I gotta say. But anyways, yeah, no, I think Filippo said it right over at Tactical Manager. I think if you use this as a U23 or U22 call up, like having gain to like work with some of the younger players, to get a better understanding of where they are in their development, I think it's a great option. But like if you're just gonna bring in Drake Calendar, and some other guys, like I just don't see the value, and so that's where I am. So I mean, if you're gonna have this, like use it for the potential that you could use it for.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if not, then if you're gonna have this kind of roster, just talk to TNT or whatever, whoever you promise two games a month, you know. So that's all I gotta say for that one. But um, yeah, I mean that's basically headlines. Edward,
Yeah.
always great to have you back, man. Like I said, so I don't think we really touched up about this in the beginning, but so because of Edward's scheduling, and I don't want to. I honestly, that seems terrible to say scheduling, but because obviously he's a father first, regardless of anything else. He's a father. Um, because of that, obviously, I appreciate any time that he's willing to give me. The fact that he reached out to me and said he wanted to come back on the show. Um, First of all, made me happy as hell. But but
I
secondly,
mhm.
but yeah. So for you guys to understand, Edward will only be on for every other episode. So this episode, he'll be on this one, but then he won't be on for the next episode. So,
Yeah, and
um,
it's been a while, so forgive me, guys. It's been a while, and I feel like I've lost my touch here and there, but slowly but surely, we'll get back to it. It's just yeah, this is actually uh my weekend that I don't have the kiddos, so I'm able to spare some time. But right after this, I have to take care of some other stuff. But it's great to be back. Um, love reparteeing with Hector. Found out that he says no Diddy, pause, along with you guys. Maybe he's done it before. I'm not sure. Um,
I don't think I have. This is probably the most I've said it.
every time you were like, yeah, I like to see those guys pause, and I was just like, what? I was like, huh?
I'm starting to
And then when you're
realize
like those,
how,
those, and man, he's so young. That kid is so young, and I love how he plays. No Diddy, and I'm like, what the? I was like, okay. I was like, all right. I was like, I'm not gonna call him out on it because I'm like, I've heard it too. So but yeah, I mean, nah, I love being in the podcast, talking to Hector, shooting the shit, talking about soccer, football, the beautiful game. It's awesome. But yeah, like I said, it's just kind of coming back to it, and little by little, I'll get back on it more and more. But yeah, like Hector said, scheduling. It's not that like I suck at scheduling. It's just have a lot on my plate, but I will make time. Every other episode, just as Hector said, and yeah. So we'll go from there, and we see how we do it.
yeah. So
By the way, I hope everybody enjoyed like my singing. It was, trust me, it was. Uh, the good thing is I had Hector as backup. You know,
I,
that was beautiful. Hero, that was beautiful.
yeah, I think it's kind of for people to have like a context of the day we recorded that episode, the singing part.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not trying to go there for any
I
reason,
know, I know.
but
If you want to say it, go ahead, bro.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
obviously, I mentioned it on in episode 109, the
Right.
whole thing, but literally that same day, once we finished recording Edward singing, that was where we took Robo to to the to the specialist. So that was actually like our final in some sense Edward's final moment with Robo as well.
Yeah, it
Um,
was it was it was bittersweet because like it was funny because like he was laying down and I'm over here like, hey buddy, how's it going? And I'm over here like petting him and rubbing him and everything. And I'm over here like thinking, I was like, all right, I was like, I'll see you later, like didn't wasn't expecting anything of that sort of news. And I'm over here expecting to see him like, around the neighborhood being walked and stuff like that. And yeah, this wasn't it was dang it.
yeah, no, I get it. That's why I didn't really want to
Oh,
go there, but yeah, no. So like I said, so that to me, it's kind of bittersweet hearing it. It's just one of those like, especially because like that was like me and her were like laughing while we were recording it, and to for that to be like the final moment before we had to say goodbye to Robo was kind of, to me, like at least has some. I hold it to something special to me. Um, because at least we got to have a few laughs before we had to say goodbye to Robo. Um,
yeah.
but I think nonetheless, I just wanted to. I don't know why I pointed it out. I think I just wanted to say it because of the fact that I brought up the singing thing.
Yeah.
But no, it was still. I mean, like I told everybody, dude, Robo was a great dog. He was a great part of this podcast. We
Great part.
the barking, the snoring, the
The
farting,
farting.
all that was all encompassing of what made him such a great member of the show. And Yeah, it's weird because sometimes I try to look back, because Robo will try to grab me to take him outside or just comes in and check up on me, and all that stuff. Or he'll be in that corner just snoring his ass off.
Yeah.
But
Remember
yeah,
when you gave him the what was it, the melatonin? Or like the whenever he was all hyped up one time, a few times actually when we were doing the podcast. And then all of a sudden you just gave him I think it was like a melatonin or just something to make him chill. And then all of a sudden he
his
just
CBD.
oh CBD, that's what it was. And then all of a sudden he just knock out. And all of a sudden we'd be in the middle of the recording, all of a sudden we just hear
Bro, that dog can
and
snore.
I was like, what the hell? I was like, I would laugh, and I'm just like, can you hear that over the? I was like, can you hear that over the recording? And you were like, yeah, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it is. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's so loud. And I was like, bro, we should kind of move him so he could stop snoring. We probably moved him a couple times, and we're like, all right, he's chill now. He's not snoring. All of a sudden, he'd be like,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh my God. I was like, well, he's about to start again. But no, all
Uh,
in all, like it was those were fun moments. The room clearing farts, wow.
yeah, nah, great dog. But yeah, so so as I were mentioning, he'll be available for every other episode. And I think I think it works out perfectly. Like, anytime that he gives me, I'm gonna work with it. He is the co-host of the show, and I've told people plenty of times that he's still the co-host no matter what. Um, and so I'm grateful for that. And I think we made things a little bit easier now, where we're not recording Boku hours, even though
Yeah.
this recording session was pretty long. Um, the only reason why I say that is because we usually record pretty late, and so it would be pretty rough for Edward. And that's when we got half asleep, half awake Edward, which that was
Oh
also
yeah.
funny.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
But yeah,
I
so
was wearing myself out real thin.
yeah, so I mean, Edward's now in a better headspace, and he feels like this is what he can handle for right now. Obviously, further down the road, maybe he can go back to every single week. But right now, I'm just happy Edward's back, and that's the most important part of it all.
Yep, exactly.
But all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and take a break. Or however I've been building this episode, working these episodes now. But we're gonna go ahead and switch over to
Oh man.
we're gonna go ahead and switch over to players of the week. So get ready for that one. All right, guys. Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing site that gives you tickets for all live events, sports events, concerts, live entertainment. It's going to be there. It is very simple to use. It has a grading system using colors. If it's red, that means the price for those tickets are not good. Keep looking through the app. You're going to find a better deal. And if it's green, that means this price for these seats, great, buy them. And it's very simple. I love it. I use it for all the sporting events that I go to, and to some concerts that I go to as well. So I enjoy it. SeatGeek has been very simple for me to get access to all the live events that I want to go to. And if you guys want to know more about the simplicity, check out SeatGeek, SeatGeek.com. And if you're a first-time user, use the code BellyUpSports and you'll save $20 off your first purchase. That is SeatGeek.com. Use the code BellyUpSports. Save yourselves $20 off your first purchase. My player of the week is Patrick Schick, who scored 2 goals in Bayer Leverkusen's 3-2 win versus Borussia Dortmund. And Edward's player of the week is Rafinha, who scored 2 goals in Barcelona's 5-2 win against Real Madrid in the Spanish Super Cup. So, congratulations to Patrick Schick and Rafinha for being our players of the week. Once again, use that code BellyUpSports on your first time at SeatGeek.com and save yourselves $20 off your first purchase. All right, guys, games to watch this weekend. We have Necaxa versus Chivas de Guadalajara in Liga MX. We also have Toluca versus Monterrey in Liga MX. USA versus Venezuela. We'll see how Camp Cupcake performs against, well, let's be honest, probably the B team for Venezuela. And then there is a friendly, Inter Miami taking on Club America. That's going to be interesting. It's going to be in Las Vegas, so we'll see. Preseason starts for Inter Miami, and America takes a break from Liga MX, I guess, to play this friendly. In Ligue 1, we got Lille versus Nice and Lyon versus Toulouse. Some good matches over there in Ligue 1. In the Bundesliga, we got Eintracht Frankfurt versus Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Can Borussia Dortmund correct things from that loss against Bayer Leverkusen, and can Bayer Leverkusen continue their form after beating Borussia Dortmund? In the Serie A, we got Juventus versus AC Milan. I think this is going to be a really big matchup to see who can improve on their current status on the tables. And Atalanta versus Napoli, another juicy matchup, especially in the top part of the Serie A table. In La Liga, we got Girona versus Sevilla and Celta Vigo versus Athletic Club Bilbao. So those are some good matches there in La Liga. See, I don't always choose Real Madrid or Barcelona or Atletico Madrid. I choose different teams. And in the Premier League, we got Arsenal versus Aston Villa and Manchester United taking on Brighton. So some good matches there. Like I said, it's not all the matches, but if you guys want a good beginner's guide to football or soccer or football, whatever you call it, doesn't really matter. Well, there you go. But all right, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this show up.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, we can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Obviously, super grateful that Edward is now back in the mix for Insert Name FC. Some things to just mention once again, if you guys, just to remind you guys, Edward's not going to be available for every episode. He'll be available for every other episode. So, just for example, next episode, Edward will not be in that episode. And obviously, so every other episode we will see Edward on the podcast. So, but I think in the way we're structuring this now, it does make things a little bit easier for Edward to be able to perform in a certain way for the podcast. So I'm excited. I'm happy. But so I did say I was going to try to figure out a closing segment, so I'll just bring up my closing thoughts. And this past week, obviously we don't really try to talk about other sports networks in Belly Up, but Barstool Sports, if you guys are familiar with Barstool, it's run by Dave Portnoy, and obviously Barstool Sports has a very interesting reputation, and I know some people aren't necessarily fond with Barstool. Do I consider myself a stoolie? I thought I did, but in reality, I'm not much of a stoolie because I only listen to one Barstool show, which is Part of My Take, and a lot of my influence comes from Part of My Take, specifically Big Cat. Big Cat, if you guys know, Dan Katz, he is kind of one of the original guys for Barstool, and is a big Chicago sports guy, and obviously he is the host of Part of My Take along with PFT, and so Barstool does like this interesting, I guess, reality show called Surviving Barstool, essentially kind of a Survivor, only that they're not out in the wilderness. They're just inside in an office. They're just inside the Barstool office. And Big Cat was participating in this competition. And I guess he pissed somebody off really bad and decided to unveil something about Big Cat, about his personal life, which is his hometown where he was born and grew up in. So, like I said, Dan Katz, aka Big Cat, has always been known for being a Chicago guy, like the Chicago sports guy. He's a big Chicago Bears fan, Chicago Bulls, the Cubs, The Blackhawks, everything that's Chicago sports has kind of become Big Cat's thing, along with Wisconsin, which is the university he attended. And um, I don't think anybody necessarily I don't think he ever mentioned where he grew up or where he's from, but if you think he's a Chicago guy, that he is from Chicago. And the reality is that so he pissed off somebody called Kirk Menahan. If you guys don't know who Kirk Menahan is, he's kind of a dick. I'll just be frank. He's kind of an asshole, but he was very mad about how he was eliminated. He was really pissed off at Big Cat, and because I guess Big Cat kind of, in some sense, was involved with his elimination, and brings up that Big Cat is from Newton, Newton, Massachusetts. So he was born and raised in Massachusetts. And so, obviously that, I guess, spiraled in some sense. If you ask me, I frankly don't care. I mean, I think it's, so Big Cat ends up going into this whole spiel, explaining himself, why he didn't mention anybody that he is from Newton, Massachusetts. Especially because he's always been known as a Chicago sports guy. Um, and I think the reality was, at the time, when, especially in the early days of Barstool, they found out that certain writers that were covering Chicago sports were not native of Chicago. So they got a lot of backlash. And so because Big Cat saw that, he brought it up to Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy said it's not that important, which I agree, it's not that important. If you like Chicago sports, you like Chicago sports. And I know Big Cat mentioned, like, growing up, he did like the Patriots, and then when he moved to Chicago, well, so when he graduated from college, he moved to Chicago, and he's very much in love with the city of Chicago. He actually visited a lot of Chicago very often. His family, he has family in Chicago, and all those things. And apparently he mentioned his uncle that he was a big Chicago sports fan. So Big Cat said that his second teams were the Chicago teams, and he supported the Boston teams when he was younger. Um, but then now living in Chicago, he decided to make the Chicago teams his teams, which sounds weird, but at the end of the day, fandom is fandom, and I don't think that Big Cat is making up his fandom of the Chicago Bears. Like, I mean, one, so it's a that's not an easy route to be a fan of. If you guys want an example, as like, that's like growing up. That's like growing up in Liverpool. No, that's not a good example. It's like growing up in Madrid, rooting for Real Madrid, and then deciding I'm just gonna root for Celta Vigo. Like, it's not an easy draw. It's not an easy team to support, and I think Big Cat is very much a Chicago sports guy. He loves the Bulls, and all those things. Frankly, I'm not trying to defend Big Cat, and obviously maybe I am in some sense, because obviously he's one of my influences on as far as podcasting goes. But obviously it took a lot for him to mention yet where he's from, and even though he was a big focal point for why Barstool Sports moved from their New York offices to the Chicago offices. He wanted to move to Chicago. He wanted to live in Chicago. He wanted his family to be from Chicago. So very much he loves Chicago. And the reason why I say that, I don't think it really matters. I mean, um, I'll say this. I'll say it like this. When I was a kid, and I feel like a kid versus a teenager is two completely different things. So I do think it's kind of weird that Big Cat went from, I'm gonna like the New England Patriots, which in hindsight, at least whenever when he was in college and all that, um, being a Patriots fan, I think 2003 is when he made the switch to Chicago Bears. 2001, the Patriots, won the Super Bowl that ended up leading to the dynasty that is the New England Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And so, people found that kind of weird that he, switched to Chicago because of that. But the reason why I was mentioning, so for instance, like, I'm not a native Houstonian. I wasn't born in Houston. I was born in Los Angeles, California. And when I was 11 months old, my family moved to Houston, Texas. So as far as anything that makes me Californian, there's really not much connection to California. I do have family in California, and I do visit them from time to time. But I mean, you drop me off in LA, I'm not going to be able to find my way through it. So just for a frame of reference, so I don't consider myself a Californian. I always consider myself a Texan. I do consider myself. So I always tell people I was born in LA, but my hometown is Houston, Texas. I grew up in Houston. Um, so with that being said, obviously I didn't identified more with the Houston sports teams, the Texans when they became an NFL team. The Astros was actually the first Houston team that I actually, fell in love with was the Houston Astros. And then obviously when an American football team came to Houston, I was going to jump on that bandwagon in 2000 when they came to be in 2002. But basketball, I'm not really like a big basketball guy. Like I can't really tell you what's going on in the NBA right now. I grew up in a Lakers home. Like a lot of my family are Lakers fans, even the ones that lived here in Houston, were Lakers fans. So because of that, I guess that's where I'm kind of like, oh, I guess I'm a Lakers fan, but I'm not really a good one, to be honest. Um, I think maybe I've just been turned off since now that Kobe doesn't play there anymore. But and obviously rest in peace for him. But uh, the reason why I'm saying that is I've also had people like, oh, if you're from LA, why don't you root for the Rams or why don't you root for? And to me it's like a weird thing, right? Like I mean, you pick the teams that you pick, you root for them, you stick through with them and all that, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, same thing goes to why I support Real Madrid. It comes down to me and Edward both growing up watching Brazil as kids, and Edward was a big Ronaldinho fan. I was a big phenomenal fan, Ronaldo. And I remember, we were playing FIFA, and that's when I learned that Ronaldo is phenomenal, the real Ronaldo, Fat Ronaldo, played for Real Madrid. This is before I knew that Ronaldo also played for Barcelona. I didn't know that. Obviously, I was a kid. This was like 2005 when I discovered this. So for the most of my time, I just knew about international play. I didn't even know that Champions League was even a thing in 2005. Once again, I was a kid. I was like 13 years old when I discovered this. And once again, like the only leagues I knew of was obviously World Cups and Liga MX. So as far as that, I didn't know too much about Real Madrid. But when I saw Ronaldo as phenomenal played for Real Madrid, I started looking at the team, and I was like, oh look, Zinedine Zidane. And then like this is a really good team, and that's when I became a Madrista. But and it's kind of weird because of the fact that like I've never been to Madrid, and how do I have this passion for this club? Win or lose, I'm still gonna. This is my club. That's the club I root for. And it. Yeah, I like Arsenal, but I will never tell you Arsenal's my club. Um, and I think, and obviously I'm a strong Houston Dynamo fan. Like I support Houston Dynamo, despite the relationship that I currently have with the club, being that I can't work there anymore. But I think I'm still a fan of that team, and that's because that's my hometown team. And I know there's, and I don't think it's weird for people to have a club for every league. I don't think it's weird by any means. I used to kind of have that, but I ended up like doing this thing where I was like, well, would I be mad if this team beat Real Madrid? And I was like, yes. So that's kind of how I figured. Because I knew my fandom for Real Madrid was down and outright my fan. That's my club, and so once I figured that out, I realized like I'm not really a fan of this team. I'm not really a fan of that team. I really don't care what happens to that team, and things like that. So because I mean, once again, as a kid, I did have a team for each league, but after that, I was like, that doesn't really matter. Which I think is cool. It opens things up for me as far as whenever I'm keeping up with the other leagues in Europe. But yeah, like I just saw that as like a giant weight off of Big Cat's shoulders when he was able to mention it. It's not important. Like at the end of the day, I still see Big Cat as a guy that's the Chicago sports guy. Like he still loves the Chicago Bears no matter what. And I think it's perfectly fine. especially all the things that he's been able to do because of his fandom for Chicago. And so I don't think you can call him fake by any means. I understand, like, if you're not really from that city, you didn't grow up in that city, but Big Cat at one point did. Chicago was his home, and so I don't. And once again, it doesn't matter. Like, no one has to, like, to be honest, man. Like, no one needs to prove why they're a fan of a certain team. Like, here in Houston, you'll have people that like the New York Yankees have never been to New York, but they love the Yankees, and it's because they just like the Yankees, and that's perfectly fine. Same thing for people that are Lakers fans. Like, yeah, people are gonna make fun of you, especially if you're a Yankees, Dallas Cowboys, and Lakers fan. But at the end of the day, that's who you root for, and you're clearly passionate about those teams. So I mean, it's perfectly fine. It's not the end of the world. But I think Big Cat being vulnerable for that kind of helped me through what I was going through in some sense, because um, I'm going to be very honest right now. I've been super checked out for quite some time with this podcast, and I think I felt like I was doing a really good job, at least, fake it till you make it kind of thing. It was to a point where I was kind of just drained in general, and I think maybe, obviously, the passing of Robo probably didn't help too much either. But at one point it's just, I was just exhausted, um, and I didn't think it was affecting the show in any way. I thought I was doing still a pretty good job, still putting out good content. Um, but I think in this in episode 199, when I was doing the serial with Kelsey, and when I talked about the whole Christian Pulisic documentary and talk about bias, um, I realized I said some things that I really don't like that I said, and I don't necessarily agree with what I said. I know I redacted the whole thing about Mexico, but um, I'm not very proud of that moment by any means, and that's kind of why I wanted to say that. Um, and people are probably going to be like, "Well, you made it a clip," and I was like, and I think for me, once again, I'm just at this point checked out. I know, and I knew that, okay, this is going to get a reaction. So, even though I don't necessarily feel that way, I do think that there is some sort of level of bias towards players from CONCACAF, but I don't think it's discriminate by any means. Um, and I don't think I actually portrayed that well at all. Um, I was lost. I was lost in that position, and I feel, and that was the moment where I realized, like, okay, me being checked out is not helping right now. So, um, and then it was funny was, like, especially because at this point now that reel on Instagram has like over 100,000 views on it, and lots of comments on it, lots of likes, a lot of interactions on it. I received some messages from that clip specifically, and there was a moment where I thought maybe I should just delete this post, um, but then I was like, no, because I don't. It's not that I completely disagree with what I said. I think that there's some things that maybe I kind of over. I know. I definitely over exaggerated. Some things, some words that I used. So I know that for a fact. But I'm not very proud of that moment. That's kind of what I'm trying to say, and it's been really bugging me, and it's been bothering me since the clip has dropped. Um, it has bugged me ever since, especially because I dropped it on Christmas. So it was, like, very much bothersome, getting constant notifications to the point where I had to mute notifications from that post, just because, like, I just wanted to be able to get through my day, and it's just like seeing comment after comment after comment, and it's it's a lot of critical comments, so it's not an easy thing to just ignore. Um, and so I'm not apologizing for what I said. I'm just saying that I'm not proud of what I said at all. So, um, I do think that there's a bias with CONCACAF players, but it's not discriminated in any way. I think it's more of a taking it with a grain of salt, especially if you're from a not a well not when, especially when you come from a football nation that doesn't have a reputation, doesn't have necessarily a good reputation, or for America's instance, not necessarily a football reputation that many feel is non-existent. I do think America has taken a lot of great strides over the recent years, and clearly because there's so many Americans now that play abroad. But yeah, I am not really proud of what I said, and that's kind of why I wanted to put this out there. And seeing Big Cat, open himself up like that, I think kind of helped me be willing to open myself up in that sense as well. Like I said, Big Cat's a big influence on me as far as podcasting goes. Um, but yeah, it's something that I kind of had to finally accept that for quite some time I've been really checked out. And that I've kind of just been going through the motions as far as this podcast goes. And if I've been pretty good at hiding it, I'm then clearly I'm a really good actor. But um, that with all that being said, man, that just kind of pushed me to I need to start kicking myself back into gear and start having fun again. And I think this episode specifically made me have fun again. Being able to do it with Edward. I'm sure we went on some tangents and probably went a little too long for some discussions. But I still think that it was a good show, and so I'm grateful for Edward because I think that he gave me the reality that I wanted in quite some time, which was I was having fun with the podcast again, and I'm grateful for that. With that being said, there's a lot of things that are kind of going on in the behind the scenes at Insert Name FC that obviously not really going to be able to discuss yet, but um, some things are coming up where I don't know. It's a lot of thinking that needs to be done, uh, but yeah, my closing thought is just, man, sometimes you just gotta say the thing out loud that's bothering you. Talk to somebody, reach out to them. It may seem, you may think it's small and minuscule, but in reality, it helps a lot of putting it out there and hearing someone else kind of tell you whether or not it's not a big deal it's kind of bigger than what you think it is. And so and obviously thank you to Edward for that because he was the person I talked to. But yeah, um so for those people, mental health is super important. Make sure you guys don't keep things inside because it's going to affect you eventually, and it's better to speak it out. Go get help, whether you want to go speak to a professional or sometimes just talking to a friend or a very close family member that you feel comfortable with can go a long way. And so, for everybody though, I do apologize for being checked out for as long as I've been, because I've been checked out for a good while, and so I apologize for that part. But just rest assured, I'm gonna be back in form. So, I've been kind of going with the motions, and that's not what you guys deserve. You deserve a good podcast, and that's what I'm gonna give it to you. So, shout out to Belly Up Sports, man. Check out the website bellyupsports.com. Follow them on Instagram and the X at Belly Up Sports. Lots of great articles are being written. Lots of great podcasts that are there, from 1420, High Low, Corner Booth Pod, Tailgate of the Quad when they're right now college football season. And also check out some of the original Belly Up Super shows. I know the college football national championship show is going to be coming up pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that, especially if you're a big college football fan. But yeah, get ready, man. It's going to be a great year for Belly Up Sports. Also, Goals TV, man. Great platform, great streaming platform. Check them out at glz.tv. Once again, glz.tv. Follow them on Instagram at glz.tv. Yeah, glz.tv on Instagram, and on the X at glz_TV. Once again, glz_TV. So you can see all what's going on there, especially, I mean, it's going to drop sometime this month. The show with Eric Winalda, Unleashed. It's going to be really good. I can't wait, man, to hear what his thoughts are when it comes to U.S. soccer and just football as a whole, man. I can't wait to see it. So I'll be right there in front of it, and it's going to be a Goals exclusive, so go ahead and check it out over there on goals.tv. And obviously, shout out to Roosevelt Spencer, man. He is the guy that makes the beats and for the intros and outros for this podcast. If you guys need some beat work done, hit him up on Instagram at that guy dope. Once again, at that guy dope. He will take great care of you. I promise. Just reach out to him, whether it's for a podcast, whether it's for a YouTube channel, whether it's because you're a musical artist and you need some beats for your songs. He's the guy to go to. He takes great care of you, and I promise you, he will do a great job. I highly recommend him. But yeah, man, that's episode 201. Catch me next week for episode 202. We'll see what we shake up for that episode. But thank you so much for listening. Take care, guys.